Blog Talk Radio.
I was groomed in the womb. I'ma shine my light till they put me in my tomb. I'ma shine so bright they can see me from the moon. And my rhyme so tight you can see it in Sassoons. The Billie Jeans, skinny jeans. Ever since a skinny teen, iron been hot, yeah. Ever since the penny scene, good times. By any means, stacking the cream. The luggage, the hats, the slacks and the jeans. Double G, ribbon streams, red, black, and the green. I am so colored, the Moors is at war with the long arm of the law. I am so Gullah, I am so Gaza, I am so geeky. You clowns is down with the crown and that's oh so chi-chi. You niggas is open over pink toes. The wise strive to civilize the Ocho Cinco. The great divine speaks through signs, yeah they opening up sinkholes. The rise of a mentor, rise of Serpenta. The greatest story never to be told, waiting to be told. Only thing missing is a narrator. The seven seas waiting to be explored. The only thing missing is the navigators. Turn the average hater into a savage hater. For hearts too dark, the lighter just aggravates ya. Young Heru standing on top of these alligators, holding serpents and scorpions in both hands. Supreme Master, Grand Dragon of both lands. The height of the light is threefold. I'm a sight to behold. I'm heating up around the globe, but I reserve my right to be cold. They call me King Filch, nigga copy. Mere visions of the thrones, they got plans for the gods. Minx the high priestess, real name Farad Salam. Firstly, me extend my salam so I get back to my murder game, killing them with charm. I'm a don in all aspects. Use the swag to triple up my assets. Got the formula, I been had my mind right. Flash forward, I caught it in my hindsight. Not a time right, pass it to the masses. PowerPoint the classes, braille no glasses. Teach them how to pull milk out of corn, hydroplating in the rain. I'll be weathering the storm. No droughts, every cactus has a spout. And currency just mean there's always money flowing about. And once you see past the mere riches, then you can go back up in the matrix and repair the glitches. It is what it be, we change what we can. And dollars can be started just from change from a can, or change from your man. Momentum is the key, a mill in your path, man, you heard it from the G, the dog. The King Don exposed you queens with wands. For non-profit it's an easy bond. In this life I delete your bond. Turn a hater cold with heat, we keep for harm. Money machine I was made to bake. And it's nothing sweet yet I make that cake that make you shake. Cause you know you fake. And I'm the light that is shining now, blinding your fate. Wow, you climbing much lower than great. Not even knowledge and wisdom can revive your state. Like a crossover, my one tools create the illusion that I'm crooked, but the path I walk is straight. Since my beginning of time, born to flow 30 moons ago. Dirty and snow, no homo, we ready to blow. And foes burn slow as our product position the place to grow. Survivors of urban danger, messiahs from urban mangers endangered. Last of a species, my race ain't up for debate. My fee be inclusive, a place of food for thought. My casseroles is actual and factual. Many bars is magical. We all emerged out the bush, but we far from vaginal. Who would've thought we chuck the deuces, but we governed by bars? So animal instincts are just blink into a fucking ruthless guard. It's always in my cards. Just think of mortals in war mode. The thought alone just thinks like feces, or how fish think. Many niggas is soft at the crust like these Ornos. So just blink and arise from the dream that you can defeat me or you can unseat me from my throne. We reign supreme on these microphones. And the twins when my men's grown. We finna fuck up the hood like they send all the lifers home. Reminiscent of how we went from infants to toting Ninas. Or when niggas got their first taste of cocaine. We kicking in the door, waving 4-4, so lay down. Like my New Orleans niggas in the A-Town. Post Katrina.
Peace to you and yours. This is Know the Ledge Radio. You are now rocking with the best. Welcome to another episode. Being hosted by your brother, the Blue Pill. Joined by my co-host, the Red Pill. He hasn't arrived just as yet. But I want to welcome the family back to another historic airing of Know the Ledge Radio. Or i.e., Know the Ledge University. In tonight's session, tonight's class features a distinguished guest. His brother has brought about through a book that he wrote. Okay, the book is called When Rocks Cry Out. And Rocks Cry Out is a biblical reference to a truth that no matter how much energy or how much effort is put into suppressing, at some point, because every story is written in stone, you know what I'm saying, these particular stories start taking on a life of their own. And they speak through the masses and they speak to the masses. And the rock started crying out and speaking to this brother. And what it did is it exposed him and opened him up to an entirely new world. And his studies and his findings led him to uncover the veil of what's known as, you know, the mystery, the biggest mystery, or the hidden mystery for that matter. You know what I'm saying? And what that hidden mystery entails is the fact that melanated beings were long inhabitants of these particular lands. These particular lands are ancestral lands that have been inhabited by your ancestors, melanated beings, thousands upon thousands of years before a supposed, forced migration took place, and you were planted in these particular land masses. And in order to uncover the story or the lost story of who your mothers and fathers are, you know what I'm saying, you pretty much have to start removing and uncovering them stones and tapping into the ancestral stories of this particular landmass. Because, again, land is connected through ley line to energy, and all of this land has a spirituality, a consciousness, and a connection. Because if you're standing on the landmass, then that's the magnetism that's being used to project your holographic ideas, thoughts, and realities into the universe. You know what I'm saying? But whereas if you have a kinetic connection or a connection to the continent, your feet is not standing on that particular continent to resonate with that connection more so than it is this particular landmass. And the story that he has uncovered is not only connecting you to this landmass through quote-unquote Moorish ancestry, but he has shown through his book evidence that there also was a mirrored Kemetic society over here, and the Hebrews were here as well, and he shows how biblical stories connect locales that can be accounted for in the historical sense of certain stories in the Bible where they can't be accounted for if that particular that place is being looked for in the quote-unquote Middle East. But if you're looking along the Yucatan Peninsula, if you're looking in Central and South America, there are pieces that fit now perfectly in the puzzle where now you can see what the story was. And a lot was going on right here in this landmass. And that has been great, the hidden mystery that has been suppressed by none other than, of course, the Inquisitionists, the Crusaders, you know what I'm saying, that have been suppressing this information every opportunity they get, so man might not know thyself and coming to an understanding that they're under attack. This crusade is not only is continuous, but the day that you wake up and come into knowledge yourself, it's all over. So with that, we want to bring forth the brothers to start that particular process of using all of the keys on the chain to unlock the brain. With no further ado, I want to present to you first, though, our esteemed co-host, the brother Red Pill. Peace. Peace, God.
Peace. Greetings. Peace. Peace to the universe. Peace to the KTL family. Welcome aboard. Thank you for joining us tonight. And yes, wonderful intro. This will be a very powerful show. I can't wait to get it started.
Yes, indeed. I want to reiterate, family, that, again, there are very few times when you can attest to a life-changing experience in terms of, the currency and the rivers of electricity flowing through your brain have always gone one particular way. You just increase that particular voltage and wattage by information, your currents in this information wavy age and what have you, right? But what about when you switch current the whole other way? You know what I'm saying? Like, when you're trying to get waves and shit, and you brush them one way, but then you go against the grain, and that's where they at?
Yep.
Well, this information, when I finished this book, When Rocks Cry Out, it totally reversed the whole flow of the current of where because the mind pretty much, they would say you got to have an Eastern mind in this Western world.
Yes.
But if Kemet is you that it's about the West, when is somebody going to say, all right, what about having a Western mind right where I'm at, instead of having my shit divided across continents? And if you can now identify with a Western, quote-unquote, theology for what it's worth, right? Would you not recalibrate and recharge the whole receptivity and access to this particular landmass if you now know its story? Because now these rocks cry out. You can speak to these rocks. Because within quartz, there is crystal, there's encoded stories. Again, I keep reiterating the Star Wars situation when they showed you on the ship, like the Akashic records, they had them in quartz, right? Superman, they had them in quartz, information in quartz, and rock.
Yes,
so now if now you're standing in ancient Amexem, but you're also standing in remnants of ancient Kemet and ancient Atlantis and ancient this and ancient that, but you see the connectivity to it. Remember, this continent is the only one where all weather climates are present, right? So all elementals. So there's ways that all of these stories could fit into this continent in many different places, many different stories. That's how wonderful this land is. Don't use the politics to curse the land. You can't deny the beauty of North Amexem or Amexem, period. Fuck the people to the position. You're confusing the people with the land just the way you confuse the man with the message. You know what I'm saying?
Talking about, this ain't our land. This is the white man's land. Yeah. And we don't know how retarded. Yeah, to one who researches and one who does. I'm talking about common sense research. The magic number is 1492, geniuses. So if you're talking about a land that's hundreds of thousands of years old, this sacred land right here, and when we say that this is the white man's land, you know what I'm saying, we forsake this land, we're just revealing a level of ignorance that, it would entitle any nation of people to turn their backs on you and be like, why would I even want to deal with these people? Like, they don't even realize the common sense of the fact that the European is one of the earliest, he's the later, he's so common to this land. So what was the story?
No.
What is?
You know what I mean? I'm saying the comment sounds. That's not nailing with what it is you're trying to say. He's the Johnny come lately to this particular land.
He's the Johnny come lately to this landmass. I'm sorry. And
here, as revealed by the book, and as you've been pointing out by explaining the whole Inquisition aspect, you Taj Tariq, and when the brother Cheyenne comes forth And y'all build on that whole aspect of this being a continualization of Inquisition.
Yes.
And they came and they wiped out the Aztecs. And it has the wonderful information that lifts the veil once and for all, like no conjecture-wise who and what the Aztec were.
Yes.
We've been thoroughly confused by the whitewashing.
Yes, definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
And the people perish from a lack of knowledge.
Exactly. But, you know, like I said the other day, you know what I mean? I seen the biggest dudes fall like Goliath, but I also see them come back from the dead like Osiris. So let's open this lineup, you know what I'm saying, and play Lazarus and wake the dead.
Indeed.
Further ado, from number 972, we present to you Brother Horace Butler, author of When Rocks Cry Out. Peace.
Hey, brothers, how y'all doing?
All is well in
Peace,
yourself.
brother. All is well.
Good, good. I wanted to come into your program. I recently listened to a couple of the debates that are going on the East Coast. I see the divisions between the Moors and the brothers that are following the teachings of Islam, and the brothers who have nursed a deep love of ancient Kemet.
Mm-hmm.
And I see these young brothers going round and round with these things with a lot of passion. But the problem is they're all talking about the same thing and they don't know it. They're talking about the same land and they don't know it. They're talking about the same people and they don't know it. The problem is words. So I thought I wanted to come on to the program to try to explain something that may make our discussions actually get somewhere instead of just the passion play.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the best thing to do is to try to go to the beginning of this thing. When I saw the records in 1996, started seeing the records that had been hidden. They were called the Forbidden Histories of this friar who had come in, Bernardino Sahagún. Bernardino Sahagún had come in after the Spaniards had come in and destroyed these African cities and populations and then started attacking the non-Africans in the Americas that we call Indians. And this friar came in, and he found some of the Africans who were here that your history book now calls Aztec. Now, you have to understand, they didn't call themselves Aztec no more than Ramses and those other Africans called themselves Egyptians.
Mm-hmm.
Those are names that came on afterward. The term Aztec is actually derogatory. These were Moors. These were Islamic-believing brothers. These were Christian-believing brothers and sisters living in Mexico who had come over on those 2,500 ships that had come out of West Africa in 1306 and 1311. We have good records on those ships coming across the Atlantic. The failure was that the black historians didn't follow them to try to find out if there were records on this side that showed what happened to them after they left Senegambia, that Dr. Ivan Van Sertima told us about, and Basil and others. Well, there is a good record here. They started recording their histories when they got here, saying, and we arrived in the ships. We landed south of Texas at a city called Panutla, or Panuco now. We came in to the Valley of Mexico and into the highland areas. We had wars. We made some alliances. We became powerful, and eventually we became the most powerful. These are the Mandinkas and the Fulani of West Africa who had come over. They were trying to find a place to settle. Now, this place had millions of people already here. It had been here since since before the Africans had come over from Africa and from Europe as early as 2,000 and 23,000 years ago in ships, and had started building African cities all across the Americas. But here we are in 1306, 1311 A.D., and these African now Americans, these African Americans in 1306 and 1311 A.D. are now in Mexico in a land named for the African Meshi, M-E-C-I, and of course, CO means land of, or region of, or place of. This is Meshi's place, the Africans' place, Mexico. And they come into Meshi's land, who had come in the BC period, and the place is full of people, but they're trying to carve themselves a place out of it, and with wars they do. But they notice that there is this island that no one is habitating. They're not building their cities or their towns on it. And these brothers and sisters know about ancient Memphis. They know about the West African city that was called Memphis. That was the capital of Egypt. 22,000 years before the time of Christ. They know about it, Memphis. They're looking for the ruins of Memphis. And they find it on this island. They knew Memphis was an island city. They knew it. Their own traditions had told of it. They were the people who had come over and populated Memphis. West Africa, not East Africa. West Africa. But then East Africa would come later, and South Africa and everywhere else was coming in. But they found the ruins on this island. Man-made island, one of the wonders of the ancient world that they say cannot be found now. The lake that was called Tashi in some literature and by other names. Nearby, the other ancient wonder of the world, Heliopolis, still stands, showing its pyramids and the famed labyrinth sitting right there, the place named for ancient Egypt's Tehuti. It's now called Tehutehuacan, still carrying that ancient African name with the pyramids there, and the labyrinth, the famed labyrinth, still there, found by archaeologists. And they eventually said this city was one of the largest cities. No, they said it was the largest city on the planet up until the 8th century A.D., largest city on the planet at 7 square miles. But they're not there. They're near. They're in Mexico, where Mexico City is now, built on top of those ancient African ruins. And now they found the ruins of ancient Memphis and rebuilt their city there, calling it after the old biblical name of Enoch. They pronounce it Tenochtitlan, but it's spelled T-E-N-O-C-H, Enoch, to Enoch, Titlan. So they own this old African city that dates to Genesis of the African writings that we call biblical writings. And they're in this city that was Enoch's city and was also Memphis. And they build their city there. And that becomes the capital city that we start hearing is the Aztec capital city. Here are these Africans here. So when Spain comes in, they know exactly where they're going. They know what the history of this is. Their church has those books. They have the writings. You have to understand that once you understand that when the Africans had come into the Americas and built their cities that became known as ancient Egypt, then you're not going to only find Memphis. You're going to find that other capital city called this, sitting on the Yucatan Peninsula. You're going to find the African city called Troy, sitting in Central America. You're going to find the ancient city called Thebes, sitting in South America. That's why they call it Upper Egypt. And in the southland of the two lands called Tamaric, North America and South America. So you have Thebes in the south. as the capital. You have Memphis in the north. And once you understand that ancient Thebes is hidden under the eventual name of Jerusalem because those ancient Africans had first built that city in honor of Heru, Amen's son, not Osiris' son, Amen's son, Heru. And they called it after Heru. And we flipped that H and J one time to give you from Heru to Jeru in the district of Salim. No, you're in Jerusalem, just the way some of the ancient writings still show that name. Mm-hmm. So you have Jerusalem, Thebes, sitting in South America. And you have Memphis sitting where Mexico City is sitting now. Now, you have to understand now. Now, when you have your crusades, you are coming into the Americas. You already know Jerusalem is in South America because you've been here before. Egypt had been here. Europe had been here. Rome had been here. Persia had been here. Babylon had been here. Everybody knew about the Americas. When they came in with the Crusades, they went to capture the ancient African city of Jerusalem in South America. But every time they do it, now they had good success that first crusade because they caught the brothers squabbling like they're still squabbling among each other over the different sects and different beliefs. And when they catch you divided like that, they just whoop all of you. So they came in and they were able to capture this ancient African great city sitting in South America called Jerusalem because they caught the brothers squabbling. Now, when they tried it again after they had been run out of the Americas, they came in again, and now they're trying to do it, and they find out the brothers have a strategy. Now they're working together. When they tried to besiege that fortress city of Jerusalem in South America in that high mountain, now the brothers from Mexico comes up behind them, these armies, and sandwiches them in, and now they get defeated, and they keep trying that, and they keep saying, you know what, we finally run out of luck on capturing Jerusalem. It wasn't that you're running out of luck. The brothers had started working together, and now there's a strategy. So when in the 1500s they say, you know what, I think what we need to do to be able to take these African cities and lands and all the riches and the drugs and the cocaine and everything else that's in the Americas to start making that money again, to get that land, I think we need to go and whoop the army in Memphis first, in Mexico first, so when we go down and attack Jerusalem this time, we won't get sandwiched in. So in this invasion in the 1500s, here the ships come, and they come into Mexico, and you'll see all the books, and they say the invasion and conquest of Mexico and Peru. But now something should have clicked in your brain right then. When you see Mexico, you don't see Peru right next door. Peru is not in Texas. It's hidden. It's hidden on the far side of South America, on the Pacific side. You can't even reach it coming through the Caribbean. Not in your ships. So here you go. How do you know where Peru is and you just found Mexico? They know. They know exactly where Jerusalem was. But they were going to knock out the armies at Mexico and then take their armies down to South America and then conquer Jerusalem. But now they have to hide this now, because if you are the church and you're saying you have a right to come in and conquer and destroy and mutilate and slaughter these people in the Americas and have the church's blessing out of Italy, the Rome there, you better have some kind of good justification if you're trying to say that you're humane. So they come in and they say, well, we're going to introduce them to the religion of Christianity. And so, it's going to give them a benefit. So we can do these things because we eventually, the whole thing is we're going to save them. We're going to save their souls. And they certainly can't tell you that they came in and destroyed Jerusalem. But the Vatican had an interest, because when the church was developing in the Christian world, there were 12 churches. 11 of them are in the Americas, and one alone is there in Italy. But they wanted to be the head, and the 11 churches in the Americas would never allow it and would always vote as a block against it. Now, if you can wipe out the 11, you can become the head. So they had a vested interest in the destruction of the churches and the cities in the Americas. And Spain, of course, wanted the riches and the land. And so you knock out the armies at Mexico, you go down to Peru, and you knock out Jerusalem and wipe that city clean and rob it blind. But now you have to hide the histories so you won't be accused of destroying Jerusalem. And that's what was done. They knew that these were not Aztecs. Aztec means these people were worshiping the ancient religion of Sutek, that some also believe is Set, ancient Set. And Set, if you go deeper, you'll find that this Set is also Cain in the ancient biblical writings called Genesis. Cain, that they spell as C-A-I-N, but in the other African records that we now call Egypt, he's called K-H-O-N, Khonsu, who slays his brother Osiris, who is the biblical Abel. That's why in the biblical writings, these African writings that they keep trying to give to somebody else and say that they're theirs, in these African writings, you find two worships going on, more than that, but two major ones. In South America, Amen has become the church of power. In Central America, where Heru was given the rule of Lower Egypt, it's Heru and Isis and Osiris, who was Abel, who is then called Baal and El. So you have El in Central America, you have Amen in South America, and when the Persians and the Babylonians came over and whooped the brothers in Central America, and those African cities fell, and some who survived and escaped that slavery went into South America and joined that group. They brought their books, combined them, and in those writings now we have two names for the ancient deity of Amen. We have Amen and Yah and Yahweh and all the other names, and we also see him being called El, because they were worshiping Osiris, El, as Baal, as Cain, as Khon in the north. That's not the same spirit. It's two different ancestral spirits that they're worshiping. Now, I know my Christian brothers and sisters probably don't want to hear that part of it, that when they say Amen at the end of the prayers, it's actually the man who founded Egypt really founded it. It was existing some, but he really turned it into empire. Amen, Amun, Aman, Amen. And so at the end of the prayers in the Old Testament, it's Amen. Christ, when this African came, when this brother came, this divine brother came with this knowledge that he had, and started saying, look, we've got a problem. I know it's going to get me killed to tell you, but I'm going to tell you that the worship you're worshiping is wrong. You do not have to kill your firstborn male children to please God. God never required it. The man who required it was Amen when he waged the war against Mexico, against Atlantis, against Mexico. Let me try it again. Against Atlantis, against the Atlanteans at Memphis in Mexico. And he sent Horus's mother, Bast, to lead that charge. And the slaughter happened. And at the end of it, there was an agreement for sending him such bad tribute, such fat and bones instead of the meat, and such poor selection of crops as his tribute for saving you from the flood that had happened at Memphis that had devastated that land in Mexico, then he says, okay, well, let me see what I can do to get this corrected. And when that war happened and that slaughter happened, they sued for peace. And the agreement was, okay, from now on, to make you remember to send me your best fruit, your first fruit, then this temple is going to be built. You're going to give your firstborn male offspring of stock and human. And so later, with that same worship still going on 21,000, 22,000 years later, then now even before then, 1900 B.C., you have the Exodus, the civil war of the Africans, and they're saying, look, we're taking South America away from the other Africans that were called Egypt, but look, this law here is too hard, giving up our first male born. And says, okay, well, it is kind of hard. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to let you redeem them. We're going to let you buy it back. And so here you go. Now you're able to give money, and if you're a farmer, your farm goods, or if you are a herder, you can bring your cattle and your others and redeem back your obligation of giving your firstborn male child. And so here's this requirement put on you. And when this African, this brother called Christ came and says, look, that's enough of this. You're wrong. The church is not going to tell you you're wrong. But Amun is not God. God is love. It's a spirit. It's not this man's spirit. And so you cannot worship both God and Amun. And can't leave that in there. Put an M on the front of it and says you can't worship God and mammon, riches. No, you got to open your eyes so you can understand what happened. And so here's the history that's unfolding in the Americas. And then when these invasions happen in the 1500s A.D. and these ships come in and they whoop these African cities on the place that had been ancient Memphis, that had been Enoch's African city. All Genesis is African. All Deuteronomy is African. All Old Testament is African. These are African histories. It wasn't that Moses' wife was black. Moses is black. All of them are black, and you're sitting there trying to find who in the Old Testament is black. No, the problem now is who in the Old Testament was not. That's where we are. And some resist it, and that's okay. They'll catch up eventually. But Amun is at the beginning. And Amun names the land. He's loving it. It's a beautiful land. He's sitting there with his throne. He's left Yucatan. He's whooped his father. He's now the king. He puts his throne away from the Yucatan into South America at the top of that mountain, that holy mountain where Jerusalem is eventually built. And he is even higher than that, up into the mountain peak north of that David eventually buys that land when he finds out that's where Amun had his throne, and said, let's build a temple right here where Amun was, because we are worshiping Amun after all. And so they built that temple where Amun had his throne. So your Ark of the Covenant, which is actually a boat, which is actually an ark, just like the Ark of Noah, it is still an ark when it becomes the Ark of the Covenant. It is a ship. And when you look at ancient Egypt, and you look on the walls, you see them carrying this ship. It has a little house, a little box on it, where Amun likeness sits on the judgment seat. And the two cherubs, Isis and her sister Nephthys, their wings protect over the covering. There's your Ark of the Covenant that people say they cannot find. It's sitting and staring you right in your eyes. And when David bought that piece of land, he knew exactly what he was buying. He knew exactly where that temple was going to be built, and Solomon built it there. And they thought the temple was built in the city of Jerusalem. No, the African city of Jerusalem, sitting in that mountain, sits upriver from where Amun's throne had been. That's why when you read in the African literature that we call the biblical narratives, it says that when Solomon built this city for Pharaoh's daughter, and for his own palace and for the temple and the little temple for the ark, that they gathered all the leaders together and then took the ark up out of the city of David. Up and out of the city of David, because it was going almost 50 miles downriver to the place where Amun Stone had been. These are things that we've not been told. I wanted to get what Rocks Cry out to you so we could begin the discussions and begin seeing where we went wrong, begin seeing the things that were hidden, throw those covers off. And I'm sorry, the black historians with their egos about Egypt being on the Nile, now they're stuck on the Nile, now they're scared to get on the Atlantic and come across to the Americans and find the rest of the Egypt. I'm sorry, eventually you'll get there. But we're there. And with the youth coming up, I want you to know that it's there. So you can now go forward. You won't get stuck in neutral. You can now go forward and find the rest of the African history and find that you in the Americas 22,000 BC and building cities and having nation building and doing everything in the Americas from then up until now. So when Amun named that land the beautiful land, the word for beautiful, Mary, M-A-R-E in some spellings, Mary. And the land means Ta, T-A, Ta, the land of beautiful land, Ta Mary. And Ta Mary is still applied to the land. And just as the ancient Africans said, there is a northland and a southland. Now we have North to Mary and South to Mary. We simply move the Ta to the end of the word and call it America. South America, North America, you're living in the land that was named by Egypt. Here are your Moors, who are named from Ta Mary, from the M and the R. You get your Moor. So even in the ancient African literature called biblical, you find Amorites, who lived on the north side of the Amazon River and went all the way up through Venezuela, what is now called Colombia, Guyana, all of that. Now we're going to get you a little deeper, something I haven't told before, because that land is also called Syria. Here is your Asia. So when you hear brothers talking about, that's an Asiatic term. You're not African. Dude, Asia was Africa. They're all in the same place. These are Africans. You don't know that the Phoenicians are Africans. You don't know that their city Tyre is sitting right there off of Venezuela on that island that's connected by a man-made causeway, because you did not read that Alexander the Great built that causeway out to capture Tyre. You don't know that that national forest is there that's hiding the ruins, still have Tyre's name in it. You have not deciphered that Venezuela is Phoenicia. Wow. Phoenicia. The way you find your ancient landscapes and geography is to find the cities. If you want to know where Phoenicia was, find the major cities of Phoenicia. Want to know where major Asia was? Find the major cities that were given for Asia in ancient times. Once you find Miletus there, once you find Antioch there, once you find Tyre sitting there, once you find Tyre's old name Korah sitting on the mainland where Tyre was at first, once you go around and find Akit, that's now Caracas, and you see these other places and see Guyana, which they changed the name of, was Sayana or Sinai. Once you find the places, then you know where the ancient writings are talking about. And now you're ready to discuss and have a lively and fruitful discussion. Don't get tied up in terms, because you don't know your terms. until you go back in your geography.
On that note, I want to ask. No, I don't want you to rest on that. I want to actually open up and start the discussion because you made a beautiful case. Now I want to bring on our more scholars that have wonderful insight on the narrative that you're dropping and can support it with additional information. As I would like to add that when you talk of Maryland, you're also speaking about Maryland. And at the south of Maryland is where they have the District of Columbia at, where you said your research ended. And I explained to you that even when I went on the Egypt on the Potomac tour with Anthony Browder, and he laid out how they mimicked the entire, layout of D.C., of course, charted by Benjamin Banneker Bay. It's a direct connection, and based on what you're presenting on this particular night and what you already have presented in the book, you make those connections, you know what I'm saying, where the land can be walked over from one end to the other extreme. So I want to open these lines up right now and bring on our esteemed special guest, Brother Taj Tariq Bey.
It's
and
on,
Brother
brother.
Peace. Islam. Peace, brother.
Peace, Hakeem. Peace, Taj.
Islam.
Peace. Islam.
Yeah.
Peace, brother.
Peace. Indeed.
Peace, brothers.
Yes, brother.
Indeed. I will leave it at, I'm going to open the floor up. I know, Taj, you repeatedly spoken on the more ancient aspects of this land that we call Amexem and its connection to various empires and kingdoms. Is there anything that you would like to add on to the information presented tonight?
Islam. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
yes,
can.
Indeed.
All right, Islam.
Yes, brother.
All right. I'm really proud and honored listening to the brother because he is indeed an honorable spirit of our ancient forefathers, bringing the truth to the light. And he's also exposing much of the information that has been preserved in attic chambers and not revealed to the public. And this is also some of the information that CMB registered in the Library of Congress so that the COINTELPRO people who infiltrated tried to destroy the temples so they could not destroy some of those lessons. That's why he registered in the Library of Congress under the Clocks of Destiny, which is really Circle 7. Now, and this is also why you see some of those who know the truth will try to dismiss him or put him down or try to act like he was doing something different from Noble Drew Ali in order to hide the fact that he was revealing the Adab lessons. The other is that this is just like the brother says, this is why the largest base for the largest world is where? In Mexico City. And the Europeans dismantled it. That's another one of their Masonic secrets. And this is also why George Washington's Grand Masonic Museum is located in Washington, D.C., but actually right off the outskirts, and they name it after Alexander the Great, which is Alexandria, Virginia, where Chief Justice Ben Bays says is in a glass case, which we've shown to people many times, and which I'm sure the brother knows, and why the layout of Washington, D.C. is laid out astronomically and in accord with cosmology, with all the signs and symbols, Hex Alpha, etc., every sign of the constellations in this particular solar system, which is represented by the glyphs of the signs of the zodiac, etc., which is the Moorish law, etc., etc., and so on and so forth. And again, like the brother says, this is why all prayers are ended with Amen. And most of the people don't know, just like the brother said, it's Amen Ra. you know, and it's beautiful, and I'm just so appreciative of you having the brother on, and I'm so appreciative of the brother being so honorable to our people and producing such great and grand literature in order to free the generations to come. And can't wait to hear more from him.
Thank you, brother.
Indeed.
Peace, yes. This is Brother Akeem. Could y'all hear me?
Islam. Yes, sir.
Islam. Yes, Brother Horace Butler, it's been a long time. But you know, I've been looking to meet with you for a long time. I had your book for a while. And, you know, I just want to, you know, say it's a good thing that brothers and sisters are coming up to speed now with a lot of this information. One of the things I wanted to ask you was, do you have like an atlas of maps? Because a lot of what you present will be very good if people had a visual of it and they could actually see it. Because many of our people, as you know, is not very good in terms of geography and chronology. And I was gonna say, if not, I would love to, you know, possibly even, you know, work with you on something like that as a project to put together some type of atlas of various maps, laid out chronologically so people could see what you're saying in terms of the movements of the people, the different things that were taking place, and so on and so forth. Because now's the time for all this to come unveiled now, and we just need to document it visually for our people so they can really see this.
Right. That's been the one large deficiency that has been called to mind, that I should have made that map. After the 12 years of looking through the ancient literature to find where the cities were, I had to, and I knew where the places were, but I wanted to be more exact. I wanted to get as exact as I could, so that when the brother said, here is Asia, I didn't want it to cut off before it hit Panama if it actually went into Panama. I wanted to know exactly. I wanted to find as much as I could, and I wanted to find the ancient map. Now, the problem is that many of the ancient maps, because this information was so valuable, they would code the maps. They would have the lands there, but they would cut it and then reattach it. And when you look at it on the map, you say, well, wait, I don't see any land on the planet that looks like this. But you have to understand that straight line there on that map is the section where you take it off, and here is Upper Egypt, and you put it where it needs to be, and then that leaves you with Lower Egypt there. It's like that. They had the maps coded. Even the ancient Roman map, called now the Putinger map, it would show you where the cities were. It would show you where the regions were. But if you didn't know how to put that map together, you wouldn't know where these cities actually were in the Americas, because it was valuable. But you're right. So I am working with a graphic designer to put the American landscape together, and parts of West Africa that you have to understand. West Africa is so close to South America that it made it very easy for them to have commerce back and forth.
Definitely.
It used to be that I would run into brothers and sisters who would laugh at the assertion that Africans were in the Americas as early as 20,000 and 22,000 BC, and they said it immediately. They would say, well, that must have happened when the land was all joined together as one land, Pangea. And I just have to shake my head at the ignorance of it. They didn't question how Columbus would get on the ship and come to the Americas. They never questioned. Never. The Vikings, nobody. Everybody could, as long as you were not black, you could be in a ship, and nobody would question you being in a ship. But as soon as you put a black in a ship, as soon as you put an African in a ship, then there was a problem. Well, how did it get there? And I would hear young brothers, putting their arguments up, and they were saying, well, Egypt came over in reed boats like it was proven. No, the heck no, they didn't. These brothers knew how to make seaworthy ships, and when rocks cry out, when that book finally hit, then the archaeologists started saying, well, you know what? Okay, now that it's out, we'll go on and show you what we found. We've got the remains of the wooden ships that ancient Egypt was using to go across the sea, not down the Nile, but across the sea.
Right.
So they started letting those discoveries out that were on the east coast of the Egypt and Northeast Africa. They've not shown the ones that were here in the Americas. You want to see a ship here in the Americas? Go to Bonampak, go into that end room, and you'll see a man standing there with lines going across the wall above his head, and you don't know it, but that's Agamemnon's ship that's been painted there. And nobody has told anything about it. I gave it to National Geographic 2 years ago. So they went in and got the Black King out of it and announced that story earlier this year, but they still didn't announce to you that this was an African city and that the discovery came from African records that showed this city, showed those paintings, and named every one of those black painted people in that temple to be the ancient Greeks and ancient Trojans of antiquity. All black. Trojans, all black. Greeks, all black. Agamemnon sitting there, black, with his Zulu, with his Zulu clothing on, and Achilles right behind him with his, and that's Achilles' son whose tomb they went into and pulled those skeletons and started messing with them and all that crap. You know, that was Achilles' son buried in that tomb, as the ancient African writings told. That's how they found the tomb. Because I gave them the ancient writings to try to start getting this stuff published into our schools so our kids could get this information, and it wouldn't just be a couple of brothers on the corner in Harlem, you know, debating about knowledge. They could start having it in the textbooks, but apparently even that was not good enough. So even after they found the tomb to verify the writings and what the writings were said, you still didn't hear the story about the blacks in the empire, which is ancient Delphi in Mexico. And so, brother, we're working on the map, but as I talk, this interview and others, I steadily give you more cities so you can kind of get an idea of where they were. Tonight, I give you Tyre. The last interview, I gave you Troy. So I want you to know the landscape in case, you know, my breaks or whatever, you'll at least have the cities there.
Right. And you had mentioned in Rock Cry Out that you was going to write another book where you was going to go deep into Solomon and David and so on and so forth. Did you do that book yet?
That book is being shopped. It's already out there to try to get a deal on that thing with the major publishers, because I see now a lot of my brothers and sisters, the book is not major until New York tells them it's major. So, you know, it'll be a book on the side unless HarperCollins or somebody throws it out, and then it's a great book. It's the #1 bestseller, and it must be true. So we want this thing to move off of the back shelf with they came before Columbus and get up there where Random House should have put Dr. Ivan Van Sertima's work.
That's right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And also, you know, if you ever need any assistance in putting it into ebook format or whatever the case may be, you know, let me know. You know, but it's very important that this information get out. I know you're familiar with Leo Weiner's books dealing with Africa and the discovery of America, those 3 volumes. And in it, you know, he just goes into great details. That's what you're speaking about, the whole connection with West Africa and Mexico, even in terms of the garments. And he mentions in there Sahagun. And, you know, what's deep is that, like you said, a lot of the history is in those writings of those early Spanish conquistadors and priests of the priesthood. And C.M. Bay, who was one of the Moorish teachers, spoke about the whole connection and everything being over here. And the elder said that he had got a lot of the information from a Catholic priest while in Mexico, in Mexico University. And I thought that was very interesting.
Absolutely.
Now, here in New York, there's a Jesuit library. I don't want to say the name of it because I want to get that information out of there before they
hide it.
Exactly, because you know how they have it in these special collections, and I've been through it. A lot of it's still in Spanish, it needs to be translated, and the pages are falling apart. I mean, it's literally so brittle, it's just turning to powder in my hand. I said, you know what? I don't even want to damage it no further. I want to get together with a Spanish brother I know and have them begin to translate some of these works, and we get in there and scan it. Because I went in there with my scanner, and I began scanning a lot of these documents. And like you said, a lot of it is still untranslated.
Of course.
And so we have to get a hold of that. If you ever up in New York, let me know, and I'm going to see if I can get us in there again, because I had to get up in there in a roundabout way, but I managed to get up in there. And it's a very prestigious Jesuit library. And as we know, the Jesuits were heavily involved in reconcocting the histories, because notice how they have these universities in every nation, in China, all these nations. And so the thing was, we can't just be in some room somewhere and change the history and think that's going to change it all over the world. We got to change it and then go to the actual locations and change it there as well.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing. If you want to know where the ancient places were, the important ancient places, often all you have to do is follow the cathedrals, because they were coming in being real slick, and they were following, they say, the ancient writing that says, I will build my house upon you, upon hell, and the gates should not prevail. And so they were coming in and they were finding the ancient places and building cathedrals on top of them. So you'll have the Black Church, the Church of the Black Christ and Esquipulas, that's showing you the major place in Central America where Israel was. Israel was actually the worship of Isis, Ra, and El. That we already talked about who El was. They had the Trinity. That's why you keep seeing those three pyramids all through Central America among the Mayas and others. It's the three pyramids. Those are the three deities. It's that Trinity there. And so you have Central America going down to South America. That was the African nation called Israel. See? And so this church was the capital of Israel. It's showing you where that capital was, in the northern area there. And the southern capital, they went and built the Black Church, the Church of the Black Christ at Cusco, to show you where Jerusalem was. And then where Christ, the African called Christ, had major things happening in his life, they built cathedrals across South America on those places too. Follow the cathedrals, and you will often find the ancient places beneath.
And a lot of those cathedrals also, from what I heard, a lot of those cathedrals are actually masjids and temples that all they did was come and change the actual facade on it. The facade, throw a cross up on it. Yeah. And we thinking this, so-and-so mosque or so-and-so cathedral or so-and-so nunnery or whatever the case may be. Because a lot of people actually say, where is the Moorish architecture here, the ancient and the Moorish architecture here? I tell them it's all over the place. They just call it so-and-so church and so-and-so. If you go here in New York City, the oldest synagogue in New York City, if you go there, it's on 54th Street, and it says, built in Moorish revival style. There's a big plaque on there. And I used to always send brothers because I had to go there and take pictures of myself. It's built with the Moorish arches and everything, and it's the oldest synagogue here in New York City. And right around the time when I was telling everybody to go check it out, I hear on the news coming up in this city, the synagogue is on fire. It's burning, and so on and so forth. And I said, look at this. This is why we have to get this information and document this information now, because it's here. It's right in front of our face. Just now they found a ship right near the African burial grounds where World Trade Center was at. Underneath the World Trade Center, there's a ship.
Right.
And they bringing out the timbers now, right adjacent to where the so-called African burial grounds was at. And so stuff is coming to light left and right. We just got to be there, and like you said, be in place, because it's like what happened with the National Geographic. Also, you aware that the city that they found sunk off the coast of Cuba, 2,200 feet below the surface, below sea level? Right off the coast of Cuba. And National Geographic, I heard, was trying to get the rights to that, and the Russians and so on and so forth. But there's a city, and with their scanner and sonar, they was able to see pyramids, streets laid out, and everything.
Well,
and
I
so
tried
we got
to get with Ballard to go and find one rich discovery. Found out that we couldn't get to it. He does a lot of underwater archaeology, and the deal was that I had found what the ancient Africans called. Can you hear me?
Yes,
indeed.
Where the ancient Africans called Greeks had this major naval battle, and so many of the Persian ships and Greek ships had been sunk in that battle. And I knew it was right off of the Yucatan Peninsula, which was ancient Greece. And so we were saying, okay, well, it's going to be, and every time that I would locate where this what had occurred, it had been turned into a national preservation area where you could not go into it. So you'll have to be aware that those things are done too. But imagine if it began 22,000 B.C. and they had engineering and architecture and sciences enough to build the greatest cities on the planet and dams and sluices and other engineering devices even at that time, then you can imagine what's laying in the soil of the Americas, and there's no way that all of it can be hidden. No way.
No way. And you know someplace else where a lot of it is hidden at too that I found out? On golf courses. What they would do on certain archaeological sites, they will build private golf courses so we wouldn't have access to what's on those sites. And I found that out from a guy with, the people you see with the metal detectors going around looking for, stuff underneath the dirt and all that stuff like that. He told me up here in New York, we was up there and I was in the woods with him back there on the Seawinoy Trail, and he told me what they found and how they found all these Spanish and Moorish coins. And he said, but the good stuff is on the golf course, but we can't get access to it. And that made me think. And then the Empress was talking about the Washer Tour, how a lot of the places where the Miles was at, they built private golf courses. So it's another trick that they do to keep us off of these sites.
Yeah. Well, I think we have enough existing that is within view where we should be able to see what was going on and then restore that history and then go forward from there. I think it's important because I have seen young African-American kids with as many kids as I have and grandkids. I've seen them go into schools and come out deflated with different things that happen, and especially during Black History Month. There are more black kids, there are more African-American kids that suffer mental anguish and mental long-lasting events during February because of the things that come out. You are a descendant of a slave. You are a slave. Your history begins there. And then you jump up and show, well, that might be true, but look how smart we are. We invented the red light. And then they show that they've gone to the moon. So, it's important to know what all you really have done so you can match city for city and invention for invention. You don't have to put a red light up against a space shuttle to try to say how intelligent the blood is that runs through you.
That's
you
right.
are man, just like man is spirit, and man, meaning woman and man, has intellect. And if man has it, you have it. But there is such a huge racial argument going on to these kids need to know these things, and they have to see them. They have to see the images of the cities. They have to see the images of the people. They have to see Africans' own ships before it gets in. National Geographic knows that lesson. That's why they came up with the white face of King Tut and then put it on the magazines and then start sending a version of that magazine into the kids across the United States into the schools. So now King Tut is white. An image has that kind of power. So now they're claiming ancient Egypt. Again, while all these brothers are debating and arguing on the corner about Kemet and all this, they are steadily working into the schools and putting the impressions in the youth.
Islam.
While the argument is going on the corner. So hopefully we can get that resolved.
Yes. Brother Taj.
Yes.
Islam.
Peace, Brother Taj.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, Islam. One of the things, many of the brothers and sisters who might look at some of the locations can see some on a limited scale. Because remember, a lot of the secret maps they hold in military documents, secret. And one of the exposures, which is very, very limited, is just the territory that's under the direct control of the Pacific Company, Pacific India Company, i.e. the U.S. Democracy Corporation, foreign European corporation called the U.S. In North America, they'll show you the exotic map in the King Alfred and Rex 84 plan of the Executive Order 11490, and that'll give you a lot of the ancient names, Morocco, Tunis, Algiers, Egypt, etc., Paris, etc., just like the brother said, and let you know that they're actually right over here. People looking elsewhere, and this is one of the great diversions that they've done. The other thing that must be recognized, again, and this will help a lot of people in their research, is the Secret Treaty of Verona. And the Secret Treaty of Verona and the Holy Alliance is back to where the brother was talking about of the reconstruction of history. Just like when they talk about the period of reconstruction here during the Civil War era, that's also under the authority of the Jesuits, where they were continuing the process of reconstructing history, not buildings, reconstructing history. Also, when we look at ISIS, we know that ISIS is really a sociology term for Aset. And so when we see Aset and ISIS, we know that we're still talking about the same thing. And the other deal, part of Egypt and ISIS temples, etc., and a lot of the old artifacts of the ancient ones is right there in the Grand Canyon, which is why they don't want people to know a lot of things that they're looking at in museums like King Tut, etc. A lot of that stuff came right from the Grand Canyon. Also, from caverns that they have right here in Philadelphia, that is a multiplicity of caverns underneath this city that they call Philadelphia. That's why a lot of times in certain areas when they're excavating or fixing streets, they'll put up security walls, but they will be solid instead of clear where people can see. So when they dig up old artifacts, that the people won't recognize that this city is much older by thousands of years than they think it is, etc. The other thing must also be understood is even when you see City Hall, where it's laid out like a masjid, etc., and they call it Ionic and Moorish architecture, that the Zodiac, which is the Moorish law that's right in the middle of the courtyard, they painted over it because it used to have brass lines on it that show navigational sister cities that are navigationally by angles, by compass, across the world, that the cities are actually mapped in their layout to star charts. The other deal is, yes, absolutely. And
I saw some of these rose compasses on some of the maps, like you're talking about, some of the ancient maps, and they're showing lines going to cities that they were sailing to in other parts of the world. You're right. I did see that.
Those Portolanos, those old Portolano maps.
Right. Absolutely.
And I seen an old Portolano map that listed that over North America going into South America. It said Mexi, and then below that it said Cana, like Canaan. Right.
Let me tell you what Canaan is. Since I told you I was going to show you in each interview, I try to bring out one major thing to make that interview special. This one is Tyre. So you have Tyre. I told you that Venezuela has not been decoded to be Phoenicia, but your VEN is your Vin. That is your Fin. That's your Phoenix. So you say Venezuela is Phoenix. Phoenice, Phoenix is Venezuela. And And you know that because you know the cities in the area. And when I followed the ancient Roman narrative, not ancient Roman, the ancient Egyptian narrative, here is Ramses II having his major battle against the Keter. And black historians right now, well, they know very well about Abu Simbel and the other places that talks about this major battle, the major battle of Ramses, where he actually gets whooped. He gets his hat taken to him by these people called Keter. But they let the Europeans tell them that it's the Keter that's a now vanished people in above where Israel is now. You know, that it's those people up in that area near Turkey, and they're saying, here are the Keter, the Hittites. What they don't know is that's not who they were at all. These were Africans from West Africa, and when you go into the traditions of Mali, it will tell you it was founded by Sundiata, the what?
Keter. That's right.
The
Keter, straight up.
Here are your Keter. Here are the Keter that Ramses is writing about. Here are your Keter and your Hittites. They're from West Africa, and they're warring in South America near the Orinoco River. That's where the battle happened. It took me a while to find Kadesh, and when I finally found it, there it was. And they had it coded by one letter, like they usually do, the one-letter rule. But there was Kadesh. Here's the battle. And so when Columbus came over, and he was right off of this river, he wasn't getting off of his ship, but he was out there and he was looking in, and he wrote in his journal and in his notes, he said, here's that river that comes out of paradise. Because it is that river. And it was coming out of paradise where Amun had built his empire up in Peru. This river starts up there, and it comes down. Here is your Kadesh. And on the side of that is this major mountain that was called Sinai. So that's your Phoenix, that's your Phoenician, that's your Venezuela, that's your Kadesh, that's your Tyre, that's your Korah. You see the name Korah, C-O-R-O, on the city, as a dot right there next to the causeway going out to the island. You don't know that Korah is the other name that they use for Horus's mother. But when you look at the ancient writings, there she is. There's Korah. So here is Horus's mother being called Korah. And her name is right there. Uh-huh.
You know, I was gonna say, you know what's interesting? Those new sonar, or those new radar showing these straight lines laid out in the Amazon. Are you familiar with that? These lines and these cities laid out in the Amazon that they can see from the satellite images.
Yes.
And they have us thinking like
the irrigation plots that they used to
have. Right. They have us thinking like South America, Amazon is nothing but pure dense jungle. It's been like that for millions of years. Where from the satellites they look down, they see straight lines laid out for hundreds of miles, irrigation canals, all the stuff right through with the satellite images, showing that there's underneath all those trees and stuff, there's cities underneath there.
Absolutely, it's cities, and it's the kind of irrigation plotting that they were doing as well, where they would have plots of land and have the water running around it to water it well. But when I talked to, I think her name was Benny Makers or something, years ago, and tried to tell her, I've got the Old Testament there in Brazil. I've got these Hebrews there. And she says, no, that couldn't be true. I've been studying this for all my life. You know, I have not found. Well, when you find it, you're not recognizing. I saw where you published that you found these things, and so the conversation was ended immediately. But it's the African presence.
Yes.
They are there.
Yeah.
The Hebrews,
that's right. The
Africans called Hebrews are there. They're also in the Egyptian records, the African record called Egypt. You have two Egypts. When they lost that civil war in the Americas, when the African called Moses killed the Pharaoh, his own grandfather, step-grandfather, when he killed the Pharaoh and had to flee from Thebes in South America and went to the Yucatan, eventually he led the revolt of the Africans, the Civil War, down through Central America and into South America and then into West Africa, then came back in under Joshua, those Africans did, and started taking Egypt's cities in the Americas. Well, the ones that were being whooped got their belongings, got in their ships, and went to East Africa. They couldn't go to West Africa because that was a base of the attack. So they went to East Africa and began building a second Egypt. That's where you got the two Egypts from. So archaeologists will tell you we found a lot of monuments coming from 12th dynasty downward. Yeah, because that's where I found Moses living off of the 12th dynasty. He named the king who was leaving.
And that battle with the so-called Hyksos, the Hyksos, those are what they call West Africans now.
They were.
It was actually a confederation of what they call Canaanites, Hittites, so on and so forth. These were your so-called Hyksos, and what was interesting is that a lot of those Hyksos had actually Moorish, Moroccan, and Hebrew type names. Like, for instance, I have here in the 5th journal that I wrote a list of the Hyksos pharaohs, and one of the names of the pharaohs was Yaqub. And I don't know how many Moorish emperors that there was named Yaqub with that same name. You see names like Shalik. These were pharaohs during the 15th dynasty.
Yeah, well, all you have to do is like I say, I have so many brothers who they throw away the biblical text saying this is not for blacks and it was used to justify slavery and that kind of thing. Well, you can get black anything to justify almost anything, but you don't throw away those black records. You hold those and use what you can out of them. So in these records is this early history that the Egyptian priests were writing, and then it was put into these records too. You'll find a parallel history in the ancient Egyptian records and in the biblical record. It's the same record being put into different mediums. But it's telling you the history of the Moors. It's telling you about Moab and Amor or Amorite. So in Brazil, going from Amazon southward, you have Moab, the Moors, coming out of West Africa, as they said, and you have Amor, the Africans who were north of the Amazon River, but they're both saying that they came out of West Africa, where you have the king called Og, and you still have all over West Africa, Agba Moshe and the Og and Igbo and everybody else. They're telling you what these ancient writings are talking about. They're coming out of Africa. They're coming into the Americas, and those two histories are intertwined. You say Canaan, I say Ghana.
Ghana, same thing.
I'm telling you what the ancient writings were saying. You'll find Kano in West Africa. You'll find Cano there. But I'm telling you what they were showing. And when you look at it, they say, well, we think the Amorites were actually, it looks like they're interchangeable with the name Canaanite, and that they are son out of Ham. Where if you know you're going to use the word Ham to try to put a curse on blacks, then give him the positive part of the spin as well, that his son is Canaan. So you have an African having an African, and here's Canaan, and so your Amorites are Canaan, and so your Africans are Amorites, and Moabite is coming out the same West African area. And to crap, that curse crap that they came up with, trying to steal that black religion and make it theirs, and then curse the blacks so they could have it. But anyway, your Moorish history, American history is there.
Islam. One of the things to back up what you're saying is in chapter 47 in the Quran, when it talks about the dividing of the land between
the Father and the Son.
And the dividing of the land called Ethiopia, not the people, but the dividing land, which is the surveying, and also understanding that Hebrew or Ibri simply means those ancient ones, Canaanites, Moabites, who crossed the river. And it's really the same people. It just means those who crossed, who came from the other side of the river. That's all. Right. All the same people.
That's right.
And it might get a little deeper than that, but they are those shepherd kings, the Hyksos, the shepherd kings.
That's what I'm
David
talking about.
and Saul and the rest of them. What did you think they were doing? These were shepherds. These are shepherd kings. These are African kings. And they're attending to their herds. These are your shepherd kings. So, but all I'm saying is, and when you hear David, understand that's an African king. When you hear Samuel, African king, I've got their images in South America. We're about to release them. These are all Africans. all of this. Their actual faces are carved on the stones in the Americas. They left their histories here with their names and their calendars attached, and their histories there.
And you mentioned Samuel and Sama. That was also one of the kingdoms connected with Ghana. This information is also found, as quiet as it's kept, in the Arabic sources. And they keep the Arabic sources secret because a lot of the Western scholars, they get their histories, especially dealing with West Africa, from the Arabic sources. And when I look in the Arabic sources, I found one of the records coming from Al-Yaqubi. It said, the posterity of Cush, Ben Ham, son of Ham, and Canaan, son of Ham, are the Nuba, the Zanj, and the Habasha. So here we're talking about the Nubians. And the Arabic sources, I'm reading quotes, this has come from Al-Yaqubi from back then. They said the posterity of Cush, son of Ham, and Canaan, son of Ham, are the Nuba, the Zanj, and the Habasha, the kingdoms of the Habasha and the Sudan. It says here, quote, when the progeny of Noah dispersed from the country of Babylon, the descendants of Ham, son of Noah, went to the west and crossed the Pharat, the Euphrates, toward the setting sun. After they crossed the Nile of Egypt, Hyksos, the descendants of Cush, son of Ham, namely Habasha and the Sudan, split into two groups. One of these groups proceeded to the south between the east and the west. These were the Nuba, Buja, Habasha, and Zanj. The other group went to the west. These were the Zagawa, the Kwaku, the Mariam, the Miranda, the Korkor, and Ghana. And this is from the Arabic sources. And then it says the Sudan, who went to the west, traversed several countries and created several kingdoms. The first of the kingdoms is called that of Zagawa, who lived in a place called Kanem. Then there is the kingdom of Korkor, which is the greatest of the realms of the Sudan at that time, the most important and powerful. All of the kingdoms obey its king. Al-Korkor is the name of the town. Besides, there is a number of kingdoms which the rulers pay allegiance to him and acknowledge his sovereignty, although they are kings in their own lands. Among them is the kingdom of the Almira, which is an extensive realm. Its king has a town called Al-Hiya. Also the kingdom of Merduk, the kingdom of Zania, the kingdom of Rura, and the kingdom of Bakwat. All these are assigned to the kingdom of the Korkor. And then there is the kingdom of Ghana, whose king is very powerful. In his country are the gold mines, and under his authority are a number of kings. Among them are the kingdom of Am and the kingdom of Sama, S-A-M-A, Sama-Il. Gold is found in the whole of the country, and this is taken from a book called The Corpus of Early African Arabic Sources for West African History. So it's there.
We've got to get it all.
Yeah, we have to. It's there.
We've got to get it all.
Dig it up.
And let me give one clue. In so many instances, I was able to find the cities by ignoring the vowels and paying strict attention to the consonant, because they would change the vowels, or not knowing to put in the wrong vowel. Is not like everything that's different from antiquity was done on purpose. Some of it was done in ignorance. But pay attention to the consonant, and you will find amazing things. Now, I don't know many of those cities that you named, and that would take a relearning on my part, like it would take some to relearn what I found. But here's what I do know. I know that the sources I did use, like the ancient Egyptian sources, the ancient Greek sources, the sources that are in the Americas, the carvings on the stones in the Americas, and the ancient African histories called biblical, will tell you that the Greeks, it will tell you where they came from. It will not call them Greeks. It will tell you that there is a land called Argob, A-R-G-O-B, and ancient historians and modern ones know that the Greeks were called Argives before they were called Greeks. But
right.
they came from Argob. The ancient African writing is calling it Argob, and they tell you that in Argob you're going to find these three major areas, one called Mahli. That's Mali. Mali.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one is Guni. That's Ghana. And it says the other one is an area named for Manasseh's boy, Jer. That's Niger and Nigeria. So you have West Africa there with their names like we have them right now in these ancient African texts, in the ancient biblical writings, telling you where they came from, telling you who they are. And when they came in to battle at Troy, this ancient African city that had been an ancient Egyptian city, now called Troy after that man, a lot of them stayed. Others came. Others found out about the Americas for the first time because of those more than 10 years of war. And now here's these huge migrations into the Americas again. And these who are settling on top of the old Egyptian cities are now eventually called Greeks, on their old pottery called blackware. They will show you every time. They will paint themselves every time with black paint. Here's your blackware. Here are your Greeks. They're coming out of West Africa, but we don't know that. So we're confused with terms, but it's sitting, a lot of it, right in front of our eyes, like that biblical record. We can't throw these records away.
No, but see, we got to get through that whitewashing that was done, and a lot of it was done during the period of the Renaissance. That's when they concocted what we know today as ancient Greek and ancient Rome never existed. All that was concocted during the Renaissance by those Renaissance artists and scholars, a lot of them financed by the Medicis, and what they was doing was actually doing marble sculptures during the Renaissance. They would take it and bury it in their friend's backyard, break an arm off of it, dig it up 10 years later, and say, oh, look what we found from ancient Greece. This was a game that was played. A lot of them will actually tell you that those sculptures were made during those times. Michelangelo and the other ones, they were making David and everybody else and showing you that here they are. But they thought they had broken the black images when they had the iconoclastic period, the breaking of the sacred stones. The iconoclastic is the breaking, the classic of the icons. And you have to understand that ancient Central American word for black, that I-K, that Ike, that ick, here's your icon, your black stones, here's your breaking of the black stones, the black images, and especially the black Khan, because Khan is major. Khan is not only king, he is ancient Heracles of the Greeks. He is everywhere. He's a major man. There's an ancient one who was a son of Ammon, and then there's one who's named after him, who's actually living right before the time of King David. That's called Samson. That is your other Heracles. So here's Khan, and the people became named after him, the Heracleans. And so they're named after, he's that major. So even when Egypt fell, Egypt came into the Yucatan, into the now African cities called Greek cities on the Yucatan, and now they're called the Heraclidae and the Heracles. Named after this second Heracles.
And this is also where they get Anahansi, or when they talk about constitutional principles being ancient, that they got from the so-called Iroquois Indians, and it really ain't Iroquois, Anahansi, etc. And it's really the foundation of even this government today. The great white goose of peace.
Earlier today, and you're right. When I look at the number of people on the Supreme Court, and you go back to ancient Greece, to Solon them and those Africans, and trying to see what they were saying government should do for judgment and those kind of things, it's built. When they say Western civilization, I got to stop saying that. We are saying, when we say Western civilization, that it is built on those ideas. The disjoint came between the ancient Africans that became known as Egypt and the ancient Africans that became known as Greeks. they made a division point there, and then start trying to come forward from Greeks, and then said Greeks were white, and then so it's a white Western civilization. No such. These Greeks are Africans out of West Africa. Right.
This was the graphic.
So this is what here's your tie right here between the other Africans, the more ancient Africans, and those who came with the later civilizations, those Africans called Greeks. Here's your tie. We knew it was a tie, but they split it and didn't let you know that these Greeks were African as well. And so this Western civilization, this black civilization, goes back to Greek civilization, goes back to the African civilization that we now call Egypt. But it is.
And the statue still exists to this day. I got over 50 images, 50 pictures of ancient Greeks with locks in their hair. I mean, straight up locks.
Yeah.
Look like a brother sister from today, straight up.
Yeah, well, it's there. It's there. But, here's something else I saw.
And that's
even in antiquity, there were Africans who were doing like African Americans do today. When you look on Oprah's magazine, you might not recognize her, and there are others who, when they make images of themselves, they make them in a different way than how they actually look, and you might not know that they have as much African descent in them as they do, and some of that was actually still going on in antiquity as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of that came too when we began mixing with those European women who were sold into the concubine, sold into the harems of all those.
No. See, I'm gonna have to be fair about our things. Now, here are Africans in the Americas. You're standing there in Central America, and here comes J-Lo. J-Lo walks by you. You're the king. Here comes J-Lo.
Mm-hmm.
And so you say, oh, no, she's not African. Throw her to the shark. No, that's not happening. That's not happening.
No.
So they're bringing them in, and it's something a lot of us really don't want to talk about. But, then the child coming out of that union between this African from Ghana and this J-Lo in Mexico is now the Pharaoh. And so you want to throw them away. You want to throw, he's still a Pharaoh. And he has both parents' blood in him, too. So we're going to have to get mature about those conversations as well.
That's right. Even look at Obama. I mean, or whatever. The main thing is that I speak about this because this is where I speak about in terms of it was the Moorish nobility that got bleached out first, because it was only the nobility that was able to afford these European women into their harems. It was like a fad amongst a lot of those nobles at that time to have, even in dealing with the so-called Indian caste system. The caste system, we always had a caste system amongst our ancient civilizations. It didn't have a racial element into it until these European women began being sold into the harems. And what happened was that the caste, the higher caste, was the ones who had the European women in their harems. They were mixing with them, and that led to those of that caste being born with lighter and lighter shades of skin. And then the rank and file brothers and sisters began to associate those lighter shades of skin with nobility. And that was the mistake on our part.
No, not necessarily, because when you're living in the Americas, and we have to take it out of Libya, we have to take it out of Morocco, we have to take it out of Spain, and know that there was a history of Africans in the Americas too. And so when you have those shades of people who have also made it into the Americas, then you're going to have some people coming out who just like each other because they like each other. And it's not necessarily nobility. It would be a brother that's a farmer down there, and it's a farmer next to him who's got a daughter who's looking pretty good to him. And so, he's not just saying, she's really not black enough. No, that's not happening. We're going to have to be real and mature about this whole conversation and say what was really
European
going on.
Women, but what I'm talking, I'm not even so much talking about those who are of Mongol type descent and so on and so forth. What I'm specifically speaking about is European women. You didn't have a situation where I'm living here and a farmer next to me, and there's a European woman there, whatever.
Yeah, it is. It is. They were coming over in ships too.
Right. But I'm saying
they were coming over with the brothers. A lot of times, there was a lot of people in the Americas. Japan was over here. China was over here. I mean, they were coming. Why do you think that place was so valuable? Because all nations were coming to the Americas and bringing their ideas and their trade. I mean, they were meeting in Mexico. That was the meeting place. So Japan,
as a matter of fact,
China, all of those, they were coming, and the big markets were happening in Mexico, and then they were running that silk down the west side of the Americas, following that road down to South America to take the silk goods down there. So that became known as the Silk Road. So but those things are over here. So when they
matter of fact, right along the lines of what you're saying about China, they had the Chinese came here in 500 BC, and in their annals, I got a quote in the second book that I wrote from their annals, and they said, quote, they said the natives are entirely black. They talk about scorched pygmy people, about men who use wooden arrows with iron points, and this is where the book come in. It said, and the mountain of the eastern pass with the country of refined gentlemen. These people, the record relates, have clothing, caps or feathers, sashes and swords. They have tigers and panthers, which are gentle and tame. They eat millet and wild beasts and have numerous variety of birds. So here's the Chinese coming here in 500 BC, and they describe the Moors already here with feathers, sashes, swords, eating millet.
Yes.
Well, 500 BC, you have to know who's here. Again, now, we're talking about if it's starting in about 22,000 BC when Amun is building his empire called Egypt, and, of course, they're here before him. But now we have those records coming out that he's leaving, and so we can really start looking at a narrative from about 22,000 BC coming down. Those were the records coming out of Heliopolis and the other priests and given to the later Africans called Greeks out of those record books. So we know that a lot is going on. We don't have to argue that anymore. We don't have to argue a black presence anymore. If you waste your time arguing the black presence, you know, to somebody, I mean, you say it, you introduce it. And then if somebody wants to debate you on it, don't get tied up in that. We're way past that.
And, what's interesting is showing that presence in terms of even the Moorish influence, and some of you may have heard this before, that coming from the diary of Columbus, there was a part there, and it said, quote, it said that where he sent Rodrigo de Xeres and Luis de Torres, who had lived with the Adelantado of Murcia and was a Jew and knew Hebrew, Chaldaic, and some Arabic, to see the king of Cuba in order to present the presents and to find out all that was necessary. It says, naturally, a man who knew Arabic and another who knew the language of Guinea, West Africa, as we heard before, were especially adapted to hold converse with the kings of the Indies. So here's the kings of the Indies, what they call the West Indies, and they're speaking Arabic. And Columbus is sending in translators who speak Arabic. It says naturally, because a person who knew how to speak Arabic in Guinea will be specially adapted to hold converse with the kings of the Indies, the West Indies. And so definitely, not only could we ascertain that there was a presence, but there was a specific Moorish Hebrew presence here in the Americas long before Columbus.
Yeah, people were here. Rome had come over here. Rome had established a Rome in Central America. You have to understand now, during the time of the African called Christ, Rome had gained power over South America where Jerusalem was. So we know that there is that presence there. Now, we have to be careful, too. Eventually, we will get to a place where we can use terms that everybody agree on and have the same emotion about, because Europa was an African woman, too. So, and Europe was in Central America there, but that was moved over into another place later, too. So, our terms. But, of course, there's a presence. I think that's what we've been saying all night, that there is this major 22,000 BC, up until you finally whoop those Africans in 1521 AD. That's a man. And city after city, you are Troy, you are Tyre, you are the Phoenicians, you are the Hebrews, you are the Moabites, the Amorites, the Greeks, the Mayans, the Aztecs. Come now.
Hey, you know who knows a little bit about this? Those Mormons. You know who knows a little bit about this history is those Mormons, and not the fictional stuff that they put out for the mass digestion.
From the ancient Egyptian records.
Right, they get right, and this is the part they keep for themselves. They put the fluffy stuff out there for the general masses, but they have actual records, that show exactly what we're speaking about right now. And this is why
I think we do too. I think you and I have them too. They're right in front of us where we can put our hands on them.
No doubt about it.
That book, When Rocks Cry Out, will show you how to put your hands on those records, because I didn't just write it. I gave you every source I used so you could go and put your hands on those records and have it and put it in your house and have it for your kids. So that's a major thing. That thing is footnoted. It's there, or you can go and get it for yourself. Yeah, we don't have to listen to somebody else tell us what was here. We can go get it for ourselves now. But when I talked to them, they said, yeah, there's a biblical presence in the Americas, but it happened after the things happened over on that side of the world, and then people came over in the Americas. No, the heck no, that ain't what happened. These Africans were having those events occur in the Americas. Egypt wrote of it. It's Egypt's history. The Old Testament is Egypt's history. Just because you take a nation don't mean the history stopped being written. They just kept writing. So now you are the king, you are the pharaoh. And so when I found David's mummy and Solomon's mummy, there they were among the pharaohs. But they can't find any of the biblical kings over in the Middle East. They can't even find the city of David. They can't find Solomon's temple, none of that. They've admitted that. And so they come out with a group of scholars that are now calling themselves minimalists, who says, no, the things that are written in the Old Testament did not occur. They were written centuries after the events that they tried to say happened, to establish a foundation for the later writings and the later events. No, that ain't what happened. You're digging in the wrong place. You're looking for the city of David where it was not built. It was built over here. That African built his city on top of or as a part of the Egyptian city that was already there that he took. He took Thebes. He took Jerusalem, and made that his city, the fortress on the north side. So when you read these ancient biblical writings, these black writings, they tell you that Zion, the city of Zion, the fortress of Zion, the city of David, is on the north side of the main city of Jerusalem. And yet when you look in the Middle East at that place now calling itself by that name, there they have a group of rocks on the way south of the main city saying, here's the city of David. Well, it wasn't until When Rocks Cry Out came out that they start digging on the north side by a wall, saying, well, we were on the wrong side. It's on the north side, and we think we done found it. No, you're already built up against the edge of that cliff. Jerusalem is built up against the edge of that cliff. You don't have any room to find a fortress on the north of that city, because that wasn't
They knew it all the time. They knew it all the time.
Some knew it. Some knew. You can't think that everybody knows. They don't. There are some people who have the knowledge, and there are most people do not. Most people don't know. Like most of us didn't know. We don't know. You go to West Africa, and they can't explain those masks. They almost can, but they've lost a lot of the knowledge.
Yeah, and in the process of hiding it from us, they also themselves fall victim to the same, hiding of information, So they just
so everybody doesn't know. There will be people that will be as offended with their religion as anybody else would, coming out of that area that's now calling itself Israel. They'll be offended by the things that are said here. And then they'll run into somebody who will explain it to them of their own. And say, that's pretty much what it was. And
brothers,
and you talk about Cush. Cush is Jerusalem. Cush is Jerusalem. That's why it's still called in Peru right now Cusco. It's Cush.
About 4 or 5. No, it's 2 pages. About 5.
Yes. Brother Butler.
Yes, sir.
I want to take this time to I want to open up some more lines, and I want you to tell the family how to go about getting this phenomenal book that we're talking about, so they can definitely get the source information. How does one go about getting When Rocks Cry Out?
Well, just in case the bookstores didn't want to carry it, I took it through Amazon. So it's produced by Ingram, the largest book producer in the world. So you can go online anywhere. Until black bookstores start ordering it, you have to talk to them about getting it into them. But they get the same deal on that as they get for any other, the Urban Lit and any other kind of discount. It's through Ingram. You can go Amazon. You can go Barnes & Noble. Anybody selling online has this book.
You talking to me?
So you can get it from there. I don't sell it individually. I didn't want to do that anymore. I want it to be widely available.
The folder. We have 10 minutes remaining. I want to open up 2 lines for we have 2 callers. I want each caller to present their question or comment, and then allow the other caller to comment as well. We have 10 minutes left of the live feed. We will continue on the after the 11 o'clock hour if time will permit, Mr. Butler. So let me open up 404-438.
It's a 1 and 2 page.
I'm going to open up 718-493 afterwards. 404.
Peace. Islam, peace, everyone. Good evening. I had a question for the gentleman. It's pretty much my area of study also, and I wanted to know how do you make the connection in beginning your research? Is there any American or European literature or early writings that might give this information up? 2, have you, in your findings, discovered Quetzalcoatl historically, fact or myth? And another thing also, did the Europeans lie in their writing of their quest here? Because it was also stated that they found a lot of this stuff abandoned when they got here. So where did the civilizations go?
Okay. I think when you asked me, are there other books that say the same thing as when Rocks Cry Out, what it shows? No. I haven't seen any that shows those. That's why I had to use so many sources to find the different events and to give you all of those different sources. One of the criticisms I saw on Amazon from somebody who gave the book a 3, everybody else was giving it a 5. This one said, I really love the first 100 pages, but one of the criticisms is he keeps using these sources that nobody can hardly find. Well, that was the whole idea. If you're going to hide something, you don't put it where it's that available. So finding those hidden sources was one of the merits of this book. I haven't found another one that shows the things that this book shows. As for where did the people go, I think we can look across even modern landscapes and find cities that have been deserted. But I do know also that wars can desert places. And when they went into Peru in 1500s to take Jerusalem there, that the Incas, the brothers called Incas, that some of us call Mandinkas or Mandinkas, when they left, they skied out because they had heard of the defeat in Mexico of that powerful set of armies there, and now they were coming into Peru, and those brothers left. They left, and they went to Guyana. When you look at the 16th century records of what happened in South America, they said that the Incas are no longer here. They left. And so they show you people now who said they're Incas. Those are not the Incas. These Incas were the big ears. They were the people that had them big, they were the brothers that might even be the Maasai. Since David had Maasai with him when he went and took that city, it could be that there is a continued Maasai presence that continued there as well. But they went to Guyana. They deserted a lot of cities to avoid being killed. Some of them did. I don't know what some of the other reasons.
Did you find anything in your research of them vacating the Americas and going into Cambodia and building that empire?
And that would be dated at what time, maybe?
Well, they claim in the 700
AD's times, these temples were dating, but I don't know how sure that is.
Okay, no, that would make sense because there's a big revolution going on in the Americas. That's when Heliopolis was destroyed. That's when that city called Teotihuacan was destroyed, and they show a lot of destruction in the 8th century AD in Central America. So there's something going on. There's that religion spreading and some other things happening, and it will drive people out. Now, once you know how to get around the planet in ships, then the whole planet is open to you. It would not be surprising to find brothers going to Cambodia, Hawaii, and anywhere else.
True indeed. Anything about the historical being or the focal deity of Quetzalcoatl?
Quetzalcoatl is Khonsu. That's why they kind of hid that name a little bit with Khonsu. He is Khon. They spell it Kuet, but it's Khon. It's Khonsu Waddle. He is Khonsu. He is your ancient Heracles. He's the ancient Khan of the Egyptians, who was the one that ancient Egypt wrote. When you look at those ancient African records, it says he lived at Memphis. It was the abode of Shu, is what they called that area in Mexico, the abode of Shu, where Shu lived. Shu, of course, is Khonshu or Khonsu. That's him. So that's why his presence is so major in Mexico there. Now, Horus has another name. His mother has another name. They have the same people. They have different names for them.
Yes, indeed. Because I've come across that information.
Z-A-L, I believe, Consul.
Yeah, I looked it up. I've seen a lot of information of everything that was in the East, the primal deities being worshipped, and evidence of them in the Americas, as far as the United States, Buddha, Isis, Osiris, the worship of all of those great deities here also. Do you have any information pertaining to the Mound Builders civilization?
No, that's what the brother was asking me before the show. He emailed that to me and asked me if I had additional information about the Mound Builders. And what I was doing was trying to do what the black scholars had not done. I wanted to follow the narrative. I didn't want to do assumptions and guesswork. I wanted to find what the ancient narrative said. So they came up into Mexico, and what I saw those ancient Africans write was that when they came up further into North America, that the cavalry, the bow and arrow cavalry in this land was so strong that they couldn't hold on to different places that they would settle, and so they kind of cut it off at Mexico. They did have cities here, kind of sparsely and set around, but those bow and arrow cavalries were strong, and they try to say the horse came with Spain, but of course that's a lie. So, what they faced put a stop to a lot of things. I followed the ancient narratives. I did not see much going into North America. I did see one account that they had reached the Washington, D.C. area, and they talked about the Potomac and the Chesapeake and that area and the city that was there. They talked about the island that we now call that New Orleans area. We don't know that's a large island. They call it Pantaline, but it's an island where the Mississippi River splits and goes down to the Gulf. Those two branches surround the land on that side, then it goes up to where that river splits, so it's running on that side, and on the south side, there's the Gulf. That land is an island. It's completely surrounded by water. They wrote about this large island. Yeah, they wrote about it, and they wrote about what was going on there. We just have to see those ancient writings and know what we're talking about. Have to open our eyes and then perceive what they are.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. You are definitely loved for it. It's needed. Now is the time, and you have my support, and I'll be coming behind you pretty soon with a body of work also. And now, with that being said, we definitely know Cortez could not have been Quetzalcoatl if Quetzalcoatl was Khonsu. Thank you.
Oh, that was a lie. They didn't think that was Khonsu.
All right.
These brothers were very educated.
You got to do a part two, Blue.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'd like to hear the gentleman just pour forth. It's a great griot session. I love to hear him speak, reminiscent of the great Ivan Van Sertima. Please come back
brothers,
with us
I'm going to get out. Thank y'all so much for the invitation, and we'll be looking to hear from you.
Right.
Yes.
Peace.
Take care,
I want to open up.
Yes.
Line 718-493, the brother Morris Intelligence. Peace.
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 What's going on, Taj, Hakeem?
Peace.
Mr. Butler, what's going on? I owe you more than a soda.
Peace, brother.
What's going on? Yeah, man, the information you drop here and then the information in our other conversations that me and you had is just a lot of, confirmation. There's almost no way we could really repay you back, but just to pass it down to, the children and those who need it and our own families, because it closed up a lot of loopholes and even confirm a lot of things that Noble Ali was dropping in 1913.
Yes.
So, we have the more information and literature, but the confirmation and the visuals is what, is great. Through my own research, I came across the global history just by the names, alone. And even with the etymology, like Morocco, in the Oxford etymology, it says land of the far west, but not West Africa, it's the Western Hemisphere.
Yes.
Or the indigenous people of Cuba was known as the Guanahana Bays. So,
yes.
All this confirmation really will be solidified if we really just start to, piece it together. There was a few brothers that came afterwards, like C.M. Bay. He mentioned how Mexa means temple of the sun and moon,
yes,
which is basically what the sun and moon temple pyramids are in South America. So,
exactly.
it's just the whole ideal of we really just need to piece it together, understand that we're in a recent reconstruction period.
Yes, we need to do that, and that's why Drew Ali said for us not to get rid of our Bibles, because he's going to use it to reveal the real history and condemn the misrepresentation done by these people in this nation this day.
And that's why Adab had to use the book to show who the Moabites were.
Exactly. And this is why we've mentioned in the Arabs, amongst the Arabs, that always get a Septuagint when you're studying the Bible. The Septuagint is the first so-called Greek translation because it still has a lot of keys in it. And why preachers don't tell the people in the church about the Septuagint.
Indeed.
Yes.
All right. So I just wanted to say, tell the brother thank you. That's all. You guys go.
Right on, brother. Thank you, too.
Thanks, brother. Peace.
All right, peace.
Before we go to the next caller, I want to ask Mr. Butler, in his studies, what was he able to retrieve about the history of the Hero twins by way of the Papoval? Peace.
What number was the brother calling from?
He was calling from a 972 number, I believe.
Yeah, he's. I don't see him in the call queue.
Oh, indeed. Well,
another piece that would be well to research, where a lot of this history is hidden and codified, is in the DAR. That's the Daughters of the American Revolution, which is matriarchy, which is actually a patriarchal organization, and that organization produces the manuals for citizenship that's used to measure anybody that come in the Western Hemisphere. And of course, they got Dolly Madison's clues in one of the rooms there, and all of her clues, and every time she dressed, she would wear a Moorish turban. Right there in Washington, D.C.
Indeed.
So
while we at it,
it was said that I'm sorry. It was said in some of the studying that I did, brother, that the descendants of the concubines were actually, the daughters of the American Revolution were claiming descendancy and bloodline to the actual women that came out of the harems.
Yes, they do. That's why they only allow just those special ones. And as a matter of fact, the tradition has been that none of the Asiatics could speak in their halls, etc. Although they may have worked as cooks or whatever or not, they would not allow them to expose or speak in their form. That has been a tradition.
Okay. Wow.
Yep. So, and then you also understand when they took the potentess Mataoka, John Rolfe, etc. And when they took her to Gravesend and threw her overboard, and then they came back and set up their aristocracy in Virginia. Of course, then they rewrote history and called the potentess Mataoka Pocahontas.
Pocahontas, exactly.
This is where they get the name or the word potentate that they use in Masonry and in the secret societies. And also with John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson, with their titles, minister's plenipotentiary, which is used when they were setting up this government during the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between Morocco in the capitulation with the establishment of the United States, and when they brought them into government, and of course dealing with the Republic, and also why they hide the history where the praetors or presidents prior to George Washington, going back even to the Arthur St. Clair administration, 2 administrations before, and then back to John Hanson and the Moorish seal, or what is known as the Great Seal, which is used even to the day, but no president speaks under it.
Right.
Which, of course, is the pyramid.
And that'll be the pyramid. Yes,
with
sir.
the eye.
Pay for this one.
Wow.
Okay. I want to inform the family. It's 11:07. We will be doing our meditation at 11:11 to 11:14. When we come back, I will be opening the lines of anybody that still has their hand up. We will continue the conversation. Taj, if you would stay with us, we would appreciate that.
I'm on the road now. I'm gonna have to get home so I can plug the phone in before it drops on me.
Indeed. So we want to say thank you for the time spent, for the wisdom shared, and as I spoke to Mr. Butler before we got on the conversation, I said, the desire of this particular endeavor is for him to walk away, knowing something, having had learned something, as well as having had taught something that would be useful.
And that's what we do. That's the real meanings of that we need to do, because every son is given a piece of the keys, and the foundation of the unity is that the sons come together and bind those keys together, the same principle of Horus, which is symbolized on the nationality card when Noble Drew puts the 5 prophets on the nationality card in harmony with Horus and the so-called the chopping up of Horus and spreading them around the world. It is the bringing together back to the light that brings the light and makes it potent, which is really what's taking place now.
Indeed.
Definitely.
So, yes. I want to say thank you. Peace, brother.
5 copies of 2. Yes. Peace.
Peace. Yes. It's 11:08. You want me to open another call?
Yes.
Matter of fact, let me do this. 44587. Peace, God.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace to the guys tonight. Goodness gracious, man. What a beautiful show.
Yes, it was.
I don't know. I had to put the phone down for a second, but is the brother still on, or did he have to leave?
Yeah, he left. He's no longer with us. You know.
Yeah,
It's just
I
right?
had a question for him, but I guess I have to catch him on another time then.
Yeah, we're gonna do a part 2. Gotta follow that up.
Yeah,
so it's 11:09. You know, it's 11:09. Why don't you set up this meditation, and we'll be back at 11:14, and we'll get into some further discussion about, you know, what we was presented with on this evening. All right.
Okay. Well, we just went into Sagittarius. That's what we currently in, dealing with Jupiter and expansion, higher learning, philosophy, higher thought. So why don't we have our focus on this meditation be us expanding our minds, our consciousness, and our hearts in attunement with what the brother put forth tonight, so we get more in tune with this soil underneath our feet. We get more acquainted and overstand it, so we know our land, our home, and our world. The land under our feet, we don't know anything about. We know more about the land across the waters than what's right underneath our nose. So let's ask for this wonderful being of earth to speak to us and give us the information needed so we can become more in tune with our environment.
Amen. Amun. Indeed. See you back 11:14. Peace. Ashe, Amin. Shalom. Peace.
Peace.
Lord. Big.
Peace.
This land is our land. This land is more land.
Yes.
Land is your land.
From the street
That's crazy that you said that too, because that saying came to me right before the meditation.
Yeah, I wanna make a correction and put this on record because the brother does a beautiful job of unearthing our ancestry with this information. It is time that we honor our ancestors by at least getting the quote-unquote names right, because a lot of energy is within the pronunciation of those particular appellations that were ascribed to our ancestry. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like Tut, they got Tut names screwed up. You know what I'm saying? Akhenaten, they got Akhenaten names screwed up. You can never get into the actual resonance of it. You know what I mean? As the brother Ra Omar speaks of frequently, you should understand the whole intent of the name when you speak of it. Like Ru, you're supposed to three-dimensionally be able to understand that when you say it, what it means and what it connects to and correlates to. And that is like a greeting when you put down a cup on the table, right? That's the hotep. But the haru is when you think of a falcon flapping his wings, it's like haru, haru, right? So it's that simple. It's just them looking at the life of the animal kingdom, which is constant because, you know, animals don't switch up. You know what I mean? They not just start doing something and then switch and start doing the next thing. You know, and like the brother, I think Ali said, they don't breed out of season, you know, or species. So they're not as animalistic and beastie as the quote-unquote human has proven himself to be. Right?
No doubt. Let's get to these calls.
All right. Just real quick, I want to make mention of Montezuma's name. The proper pronunciation is Motecuzoma. Motecuzoma. All right? So we need to start resonating that for that ancestor. Let me open up this line real quick. 757-773. Peace.
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 Peace to the gods.
That's the Chi-Town?
Nah, this VA. It's your brother Ross Son down here.
Oh, El Ross Son. Peace to the gods.
How y'all doing?
Sir. All is well.
Oh, I just wanted to come through, man. I wanted to come through and first say, yo, thank you for that show, man. That brother, that elder really put it down. And because he gave so much info, I wanted to actually just come on right quick. I don't really have a question, more so I want to share a resource that we all can begin to use to forward even further beyond what he put out. If everybody wants to go on Google or whatever your method of search is and search for the name Tuscaloosa Ohoyo, and let me spell that for everybody. That's TUSCALOOSAOHOYO. And that sister
O-I-O.
It's TUSCALOOSAOHOYO. Tuscaloosa Ohoyo. And that sister's been emailing me information like over maybe the last couple of months. Just some of the stuff, I mean, everything from, you know, actual records of, you know, different people that came over here, you know, under the authority of the Pope, of course, looking for so-called Saracens, right? And finding, you know, actually their writings where they document, you know, saying the chiefs wear almazers, which they refer to as Moorish wraps. How they sound, Moorish mats, architecture, darts, cloaks. She goes into the history of ancient Carolina, where they found native Carthaginian armor. She goes into the Barbary treaties and how that ties in together. She goes into the Almoravid dynasty. She goes into Queen Wetamor of Rhode Island. She goes into how that's connected with Morocco. I mean, she just has so much information out there that ties in with what the brother put out. I wanted to share that resource with everybody. It's too much for me to just read by myself.
Indeed. Definitely want to say, give thanks to the young elder. You know what I mean? I know that you're going to be taking some of this content and alchemically transferring it into bars, gold bars, that is. You know what I mean?
You already know. I'm in the studio tomorrow night, so I'm going to actually, you know what I mean? I'm going to download this joint in the morning and put it on repeat.
I'm saying, chop up some excerpts and all that in the stew and the song or what have you. You know, major things on the way. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to that project that you have in your works, the Assassin Creed, as the brother Cheyenne the Liberator spoke on his show the other night when he was speaking about that particular game in particular. If anybody wants to tap into the hidden aspect of the history of bloodlines, Moorish bloodlines, is being discussed at length in those particular game series. Assassin's Creed.
Listen, that joint is all, the whole story of the joint is based on the 72 names as written in the Kabbalah. I'll just say that. And they say it expressly, like it's not hidden. They say expressly, yo, this is the 72 names. This goes back to the Colosseum, which was encoded with this information started construction in the year 72. You know what I mean? And then they actually start showing the pyramids. They show the eye. They build on masonry. They build on everything by name.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to have to, check some of them joints out. I have to play a game or two.
Definitely.
Okay. Hey, brother, I want to say thanks. Hopefully we see you up here Sunday. We want to remind the family, Sunday, Brooklyn, New York, starting at the very convenient hour of high noon. Talking about Haru. Starting at high noon on Sunday at CPAC, which is in Flatbush/Canarsie, Brooklyn. King Simon Production is bringing back to New York for the very first time in a long time the much-awaited, much-anticipated return of the Doctor, the Reverend Phil Valentine, with the young master student, Brother Polite. So you want to check that, www.1000streams.com. A venture being set forth by one of the young scholar masterminds that was on the show, Brother Hakeem Bey, earlier today. You want to check that out, 1000streams.com. You can catch this monumental event in the comfort of your living room or your iPad, iPhone, whatever have you, or you can be there in the flesh. You know what I'm saying? Getting that Soul Gold Water, Seven Heaven, Kings County, Cafunias, crystals, a whole bunch of things. Artifacts,
Ronic wear,
Kink,
Pure Body Awareness.
Yeah, the Brother Polite's alkalized food, you know what I'm saying? The reflexology, the massage, whatever, the family. This is going to be a full Moorish bazaar set up where you're not only going to be able to get information, but you could also get yourself some edutainment, entertainment. You know what I'm saying? So please come out, check King Simon's Facebook if you don't have the exact directions and you want to get his phone number and holler at him. So we look forward to that. Hopefully Elroy Son will be in the building as well so we can hit this studio first thing Monday.
Yes,
so
sir.
For Tuesday show, we can have some heat for the family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, already.
Put some of these things in perspective. So peace, God.
Peace.
Indeed. Caller from the 443-857. I like that number, 443. Peace.
Blue Pillar, Red Pillar, what's up, man?
Peace, God.
Hey, what's going on, man? It's DJ Mel Torture down in B-More.
Alright.
Yes, sir.
Good, what's good? Baltimore.
Yes, B-More.
Yeah, man. Hey, I just want to ask you a quick question, man. I heard him mention something about Maryland today. Can y'all give a little recap, what you remember from the presentation tonight?
Yeah. Yes, he made mention of Tamaray, and he spoke of Maryland, and I commented to him because his research only brought him up to Washington, D.C. He said there were battles being wrought in Washington that they couldn't advance. They said the brigades that they went up against were too strong with bows and arrows, so they never advanced past D.C., that particular landmass, but that particular landmass is still in this royalty. I'm saying, so I think to him that it's no coincidence that they chose D.C., right, which is on the end of Maryland, as the 10 square mile place where they would rule their, where they would conduct the rulership of this particular said empire from. Which is, went into corporate, what have you. But the original intentions of it, laid forth by Benjamin Banneker Bay, was that in particular. And I explained to him that I went on a Egypt on a Potomac tour with Anthony Browder. He does an exemplary job of laying out how everything about D.C. is ancient Kemetic, them honoring and duplicating, because everything has a mirror, everything has a twin. So if there's a Kemet in the east, there's a Kemet in the west. But there's also twins on this particular landmass. So there's a Kemet in Mexico, in the Mexim, and there's a Kemet right here as well, right in D.C. But there's certain aspects of the Empire State that you can find Kemet. There's places they name, the whole aspect of Kemet is right here on the Mississippi Delta, right? But then you also go to Ohio, right in the Ohio valleys where they tell you they got the Garden of Eden. They got this, they got that. We find giants where they're ancient town builders. So we talking about history is so expansive, and just repopulation of power centers, they just recloaking it. It's like when you buy a new crib. Take the paint, throw the paint over, throw new artwork up, and you rocking like you was already there all along. But things happen prior to when you got there, and the spirit of that shit is still there. Some of these places are haunted, what we would call quote-unquote haunted, or unfavorable spirit-wise, because the ancestry of the land is not paid homage to, and it's not made comfortable. So you would take a place like Chi-Town, right? Chi. Spell it with an X-I. Don't look at that. It's Chi, and understand that it's cheap. Power center, power grid, nowhere stronger than that. Surrounded by 5 lakes. Do you think the spirits of those lakes are at ease with homage being paid to them by the occupants of that particular landmass? Do you think that those the surrounding, because they got mounds over there where they got 1,000 complexes type shit. So all of them spirits of that particular land are not at ease, and those are lands more so that you will find, off the chain, they're off the grid, right? Off the meter is what they call it.
Right. Sound like the ancestors.
Think about D.C. Think about Southeast. Very far. Right. So he's talking about the southern aspect of Kemet. Even when we always go all the way down to Kemet, the southernmost part is what? Kush.
Mm-hmm.
What is on everybody's mind? Our youth. Kush.
Wow.
Hey,
major question, man. I heard of you ever heard of a city called Americus, Georgia?
I haven't.
Yeah, I thought about that. I was like, the Kush and Americush. I was trying to see if there's any kind of connection, whatever.
Oh, of course, yes. It's absolutely.
Okay.
You said Kush, Amerikush?
It's a city in Georgia called Americus, Georgia.
Well,
the
brother Taj was talking about the exotic map. He published a book, and it has in the back of the book what you will call the exotic map of America, showing that throughout all of the Americas, all of these ancient antiquity cities, Rome, Athens, you name it, Beirut, Morocco, Algeria, it's all in the Americas. It's all in this exotic map. You know what I'm saying? So, that's something that you could begin to study. You know, like Athens is in Georgia, Rome is in Georgia. They got Romulus in Detroit. You know what I mean? And all of these, they got all of these different cities named after what we read in these in these Bibles, New and Old Testament, and all of these ancient writings, and we automatically think that they're talking somewhere across seas, when we might not be realizing that they're talking about land and locations that are right here.
Right. Got you. So like everything flip flop.
Exactly.
Hey,
and I didn't get a chance. You know, the brother, a very pertinent question. I do want to apologize to the family that sent in questions. I had over 20-something questions, and I didn't get a chance to go into a lot of them, so I do apologize to the family. I'm going to work on either getting a written response from him or a video response. We're going to be doing something more lengthy with him other than this. This is just the primer. You know what I'm saying? This is you put the primer paint on the wall before you even put the official paint on. So this is just the primer paint. You know what I'm saying? We'll be doing something more pronounced with the brother. But one of the questions that I wanted to ask was, at what point does Masonic mythology, occultism, and esotericism erase, right, or blur the line between historical fact? Because you have a lot of people that have vehemently said that none of those characters from the Bible were actual characters in history. Now, we definitely see why they couldn't find evidence or proof of them. So, at what point are we going to revisit what easily is the battery in the back of, let's say, 85% of our people, if you want to be, puritanical with it? I know niggas that don't go to church and all that, they so programmed still by the societal aspect of the structure that you live under. It's like saying, I don't smoke cigarettes, but you live in New York City, so by proxy you smoke cigarettes. So you can say that you're not Christian, but by proxy you live in New York, which is Judaic, under ecclesiastic law. This whole construct is under ecclesiastic law. So if you can't find yourself in that particular story or paradigm, if you don't know the Kabbalah is ancient, quote-unquote, African, if you're not understanding that, the ancient aspects of Christianity come from, quote-unquote, African stories, we do a lot to talk about the Christian domination of the church. We know what, the Council of Nicaea and everything did. But at what point do we give credence to the aspects of it that are still part of our ancient story? And are we even concerned with rewriting it if this is the program, right, that is entrenched in the motherboard of our entire nation, especially our mothers who are the head of our nations? So I'm talking about some Jehovah's Witness came to the crib the other day, and you would think that they was the police. I mean, like, they'll pounding it, and they won't go away. And they came back, and they was vehement with theirs, like, Jesus are looking for you. Like, I got his direct number. You know what I'm saying? I said I could get him on the three-way. He got some shit he needs to tell you. They was like, "We'll see you later." But they go hard. You know what I'm saying? So the coding is already in the hearts and the minds of the people. At what point do you say, all right, well, they need to get this information. We need to be dropping boxes of When Rocks Cry Out off at church steps, you know what I'm saying, or buying it and put it in stocking stuffers for people that we actually know is that steeped in the church. They need this information to reverse their understanding. If, in fact, they're not going to put down the Bible, the rest of the people we could communicate with other instruments such as the Circle 7, which has aspects of the Aquarian Gospel, you know what I'm saying? And then the best teacher and demonstrator of all is that demonstration. Then you could just start demonstrating, and people could see you guarding.
I say do it now, brothers. Stop playing movement.
Indeed. Give thanks.
Hey,
so
brothers,
I wanna catch the next line before the queue shuts down. We still have the queue up or what have you. You know what I'm saying? Even Blog Talk is.
We still got to get to you too with that music. So we definitely about to link up and do some big things with you.
Got you. I already got something for you to send up.
Say that again.
Hey, I did. I got some mixes from that last More Fire.
Oh, word?
Yeah. No doubt. Please send that. Yeah. A lot of gems on that. You might want that with the fine tool, with the fine, the comb. What they call the fine tooth comb. Right. It's a lot of gems on that show. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Shout out to L.Y. Son, KT the Arc Degree, and LQ, and everyone else that came through and blessed that monumental show. So we want to say thank you.
Okay. O'Shea to the answers, brother. Islam.
All right. Make sure that you pass this information around. Share the link. You know what I'm saying? Free somebody's mind. And I want to open this line. 706. Call us from the 706. You are now rocking with the best. Peace.
Islam, Morris.
Islam.
Yeah, this is Lord Abba. And, I was listening to the brother Horace Butler. I actually have his book. I've actually dissected this piece. It's a very good read. And it's definitely a good research piece in comparison to what Noble Drew Ali was speaking about, dealing with our heritage on this land. Now, there's something that I want to bring to everybody's attention that's still listening, and it's called 77-degree guard longitude, 77-degree west. Is anybody on the line familiar with that?
No, bro. I haven't heard of that.
All right. Well, 77-degree west, Elizabeth I sent the missionaries over here. See, once they conquered the Moors and the decree was given to go conquer the son of Ham, it was deeper than, what we have been taught on the surface. But it was a specific longitude, a specific ley line that they was trying to lay hold to. And that's why Columbus was sent over here. They didn't come over here guns blazing. They came over here under control because you got to remember that Moors control this, this part of the land, particularly dealing with the North Americas. And that's why Columbus had the Pinzon brothers, if I'm saying that right, on his ship. And they were descendants, they were family to the Sultan of the Marinid dynasty at that time. So when you got to look into the 77-degree west longitude because that tells it all, dealing with Washington, D.C. If you look at Washington, D.C. right now, they have a hill called Meridian Hill. If you go to the 1500s to like 1580s, you'll see that the Spanish settled in Peru. If you go through Google Maps and you run down the 77-degree longitude, you'll see that Peru runs across this longitude. When Columbus came over, they had already kind of sort of laid claim to it. And then you get into the whole Protestant and Catholic war that was going on. Like, this is a major missing factor when you look at the Moorish Quran and you see the circle 7 on it, you understand, and this is from my understanding, of course, but you start to understand what that 7 actually means and why the prophet said, I'm going to leave them here just long enough to teach you how to run a government. So make sure y'all look up 77-degree longitude. Washington, D.C. sits right on the 77-degree longitude. It is a PowerPoint. It is a ley line. They sent John D. He was a magician, a wizard for Queen Elizabeth I. His nickname was 007. Like, this. I ain't gonna stay on long because this is like a whole 2-hour show. I'm gonna send you the link on Facebook, and I want you to go through it. And, at any time we could chop it up because this is all I do.
I actually went to Meridian Hill. You know what I'm saying, and partook in that whole layout. I seen how they lined the Capitol up with it and everything. We got pictures of it.
That's right. That's right. Check
again,
it out. 77-degree longitude is called God's longitude. They actually hired a Moor named Na'imat Allah. This was his name, straight 5% name. Na'imat Allah, to draw up their calendar based on a 33-year system. Dealing with the Freemasonic degrees, and it also has something to do with certain constellations. Like, it's a deep science. I'm sending a link to you right now. So, definitely all on board.
To co-sign what you're saying and put the capstone on it, down Meridian Hill and down the Meridian runs 16th Street. 16th Street is known as the block of the House of Temples. Every particular quote-unquote religious organization in the world has a temple on the stretch of 16th Street. Of course, 1 and 6 or 7. Okay? Wow. Runs directly into the obelisk. All right? Which is 55 feet. Alongside 16th Street is where you find the Great Grand Lodge. Everything is divided into 33. You find the Mother Lodge. That's the Grand Masonic Lodge. That's the big to do. You know what I'm saying, on this particular landmass, and you find the you find everything there. That's where you know what I'm saying. The 32-degree lodge, and you find the 33-degree lodge. Everything is on 16th Street. All right.
That's
so what you're saying is right on point. They're utilizing that power of the sevens, and if you understand the aspect of 77, you understand that that's twin pillars as well. Peace.
Islam. Definitely, I'm sending you the link right now. And, that was just profound. And when you go to Google Maps and play with that 77-degree longitude, you're going to find somewhere in the south where they have a street sign, and it's called, I forget, I think it's called Meridian something, or 77, you got to play with it. I got all this stuff in my notes, my computer acting up right now, and I ain't want to stay on too long. I just wanted to throw that out there. I know brothers like Hakeem Bey is on the line, and I know I hear a lot of Moors use the term North Gate. Now, I know the Prophet never used that term, but I come to, for my research, come to see that God's longitude, 77-degree longitude, is indeed North Gate because it sits upon that ley line, and from on that ley line, they rule in Washington, D.C. So, it's definitely a deep degree. I'm just stay on the line and just listen in. Honest to you, brother.
Honest. Again, often I speak about the whole aspect of, Benjamin Banneker's input into laying up that particular construct, right? Finding exactly where to lay the foundation and the cornerstone, because the cornerstone of it is laid right on Meridian Hill in Meridian Park, okay? And that's where we went. We seen the exact point where it's the midpoint that separates it's the midpoint, it's the center point of Washington, D.C., which is constructed as a square. So the exact midpoint is on 16th Street, running straight through Meridian Park. He was genius, and it's lined up with a constellation, right? So it has a terrestrial and a celestial connection. It's the portal through which all things happen. So that's why I've explained at previous times, and when we understand it, the 44th president is sitting in that particular seat, then you will understand what the great Masonic work was or is. It was the construction of this particular edifice to bring back the rule of who they would know as, right, since he laid the whole info out about Kemet being here, it's Taharka. That's why him and Will Smith is so cool, and Will Smith is going to play Taharka. So it's about them reestablishing dominions and kingdoms, or is it about us as Moors establishing it? Because every time you see that man, he got a maroon tie on, okay? And he more so, if you would ever see anyone standing underneath the Great Seal, he had enough knowledge to create his own seal when he was campaigning, and he made it more prominent as a phoenix. He showed the eagle, not as the eagle, but more so flowing as a fiery bird, as a phoenix. That's right. You know what I'm saying? Because
also you got to look at the 5-pointed star that's laid out in Washington, D.C., and its relation to the precession of Venus. You know, Venus, makes a 5-pointed star as it travels around the sun. So, this thing is like deeper than a lot of people really know dealing with this more. I'm gonna drop a gem on it to show again everything that we see. If we seen the layout of what's going on in the binary sense, right? And I'm talking like, think about the beginning of the Matrix. You see everything as numbers and numerics, right? Because what Hov is popular for saying, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. So we know that there's this, you could qualify something numerically. That's why through Kabbalah you could take all of these things and deduce what's the numerical value of them and see what the energy is. So you talking about the 77th degree longitude, right? Laying on that particular meridian. I explained to you as 2 twin pillars as well. Indeed. Right? Indeed. So understand that when you take, right, the red and the blue, Democrat and Republican, they're banging on the 6-point and the 5-point star. Okay? So the Hebrew, Zionist, Moorish connection, you see it even emitting itself through politics. And when you combine 5 and 6, what do you get? 11 all day. Twin pillars again, celestial, terrestrial.
Get that 11. You know what I'm saying? The 2 lands, the twin lands, as above, so below. All that good stuff. For those that have read When Rocks Cry Out, the brother went super far in, but even he didn't understand everything that he chucked out because it's just information, and somebody could take a piece of that, put it into their little puzzle that's missing one piece, and now they got a whole puzzle. That's how this shit works. Everything he said don't got to resonate with you. It could be a little piece. Just like, you could be making stew and you just don't know to put the cumin in. You put the cumin, you got a banging stew. You actually get some bread from it or some head or whatever. So, you know what I mean? It's the same way, man. It's just morsels, gems and parcels. But other people, they can use the whole plate. They're like, son just gave up the remix. Like, a nigga could spin around and create his own church. You could be the next Father Divine if you know how to utilize the info.
I mean, that's what we're supposed to be doing. I mean, real talk. We're supposed to be tele-evangelizing. Like when you
church,
said,
man.
When you said the Jehovah's Witnesses came to your door, I would have pulled out the Moorish Quran and said, did you know about the missing 18 years of Jesus? Let me this is how you proselytize people right there on the spot, because they don't know about this knowledge. You know what I mean? And we know that it's not dealing with any degree of spookism. It's just actually dealing with the higher self and the lower self. That's it. You know what I mean? The higher self is the everlasting. That's why we physically die and our offspring live on and their offspring live on. This is just the macro and the micro. Same science. And once you get people at your door like that and you start dropping jewels from out of this Moorish Quran, they're going to come back and build. But they're going to come back and build on a different degree, because they're going to say, that was interesting because I didn't know that Jesus, that's the missing 18 years right here. I'm doing something on that as well. Showing and proving that the prophet was right. There's records that say that Jesus taught in India. They got the records in India. So I mean, you know, it's all
again,
down, like you said. Yeah.
There's much controversy. You know, people would again constantly focus on one of continuously reiterating that none of these characters in these said texts existed and what have you, and they would just like to hang on that. This is what I'm saying. They would like to still hang on that and dismiss the entire moral of the story at that. Like, okay, just because the nigga ain't walk on this particular plane, so you feel that the moral and what he stood for, that particular story, you dismissing it as well. You know what I'm saying? So piety and telling the truth to lies, you know what I'm saying? All of that don't have no resonance or no place in reality, because you can prove or not say that you found anywhere that has a record of said man. They're missing the point. You know what I'm saying? They're missing the point altogether. And for the record, you know, through history and the compiling of history by historians, they have not too many people are accounted for in these ancient texts. Moses is spoken of, you know what I'm saying? But they also have Flavius Josephus, who wrote of a Yeshua. Okay? So that actual presence technically is documented. He was short, dark, right, unattractive, of a small stature, and he operated and worked miracles. That's a part of the historical story. And at the same time, there was what? 26 others. They were, quote unquote, considered messiahs at that particular time. So people could wrestle with the facts all they want. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, do you got a miracle in you? Is that shit beyond who you are? Are you just a spectator? You're just somebody that's reading the book, or are you living it?
That's right.
That's what this shit come down to. You know what I'm saying? Are you a character out the Bible, your damn self? Just reading about yourself, pointing fingers and throwing rocks at yourself, wonder why you waking up bruised.
That's right.
It's real talk. You know, on that, we have 9 minutes left. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully we help to born a new reality in the minds and the hearts of the listeners tonight to say, do not throw that Bible out. You know what I'm saying? Do not throw that baby out with the bathwater. The masses of your people are in these churches. They're already halfway there. All you got to do is remix it, okay? Change could come in 1 degree. It doesn't have to be 360. That's what's called a total revolution. But a change could just be 1 degree, okay? You can use morsels of this information to go and teach your family the truth or bring them closer to it. And that will get the body politics of this planet closer to where she needs to be. And you would have done your job. But let's stop pointing fingers and let's stop banging on one another. That's the 5 and the 6 shit. The 5 and the 6 cannot bang. It has to come together as the twin pillars. Me and my brother spent many years, the red and the blue, couldn't get together. Couldn't make it happen. But when we stood up as the pillars became a tuning fork. And we bear witness to that on this very night. You know what I'm saying? That we're able to resonate and bring forth these particular messages, right? Mercury's communication, Mercury's glyph is what? Or should I say, okay, Mercury's correspondence is Gemini. What's Gemini's glyph?
The twin. I was about to say I ain't into the astrology thing.
It's very simple.
I just listen to it all, though.
My thing is, if a baby can't get it, then it wasn't even meant for us. The children could get it. You know what I'm saying? We just got to take time to see it for what it is, because it's all spelled out in pictorial. The Gemini is the twins. The twins is communications. If you take the twin, the shit is a tuning fork, or you put an arc on it, and it's a magnet. Dealing with magnetism and communication. When you talk, people listen. That's it. So now we got something real to say. And again, we can only express that this is out of love and sincerity for the entire human family, that we might get the story correct and really, really move forward in this transitional time, because change must come. It must come. There's nothing you can do about that. You can't stop time and say, I ain't doing change today. Let's go backwards. No. You ain't going to push a fucking landsliding boulder upwards. You either get out the way, you know what I'm saying, or you get on board and take the trip. Yeah. Red Pill.
Yes, sir.
We got 5 minutes left. You want to take us out?
I'm here soaking up all of this information. Honest to Lord Abba.
Yeah.
We definitely got a slot for you coming up to do what you do. I just want to say honest to the family that came on tonight and joined us. And, I want to say honest to you, too, Blue Pill, for, you know what I'm saying, what you did to make the show happen, because it was definitely on the verge of not happening. But it gave me an idea of how powerful the show was going to be when we started getting these obstacles that were presenting themselves at the 11th hour and whatnot. So, honest to you for pulling through.
Happening, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, a lot went into making this happen. There was a lot of obstacles to get over. It totally was in jeopardy of not happening. And, I was totally confident that just wasn't the case.
Yes, sir.
Because I was reading, I was digesting the material at the same time, and I'm like, there's no way, even if I had to get on the show tonight and read the book myself to the family, like, there's no way that even if he don't show up, that's going to stop me from sharing this information with the human family. Like, this is powerful, powerful confirmation and information that if you're not attached to a man, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people are going to be like, well, did Dr. Ben co-sign this? And they're not going to be able to digest it because they're attached to the attachment of a man in his body of work and doesn't have an open space in their place in their mind, an open room in their mansion and shit. Like, every room is filled up in the mansion. It's that packed. It's time to do some spring cleaning, make room for some new information. Tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah, indeed.
New under the fucking sun. It's tomorrow. That's new. It didn't get here yet. We ain't done that. Where they did that at? So let's open up our minds and just make room and space for that little piece, that key that can make sense of this all. So now we could step to, you know what I'm saying, Asha Kwesi needs to know about this. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And the minions underneath him, the SETIs and all of that particular world. Well, you need to go, because you can go down to South America and open them temples, bang that out. Get a machete and bang the bushes out to make an open path to get to them temples and set up shop right there. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
So,
indeed.
I want to say
the brother,
to the family.
Brother Noble Ampool builds on the geodetics, Lord Abba. He goes real hard with the geodetics, the latitude, longitude. I'm going to try to link you up with him so you could share your notes with him and your information and whatnot. Maybe you could pull something, maybe I could do something in the future, the near future, on that 77th.
Yeah, I mean, that information deals with so much astrology, like when they did attacks. Every time they did an attack, a certain constellation was at 33 degrees on the horizon of, like when you read the information, you're like, wow, this is kind of crazy. And I heard Ampool speak about that before. I think he said the Department of Defense, when they do certain things, I don't think it was the Department of Defense. I forgot what he said. He said they do certain things based upon
the war to the Department of Defense. Yeah.
Okay, true. So, I mean, it's all relevant at the end of the day, and this is why entities is set up. because an entity is representative of a ship or of a planet, of a thing that a God would control. You know what I mean? So, you know, we plugging in, we eyes are wide open, we waking up. This is why we're all here. You know what I mean? Whether we like it or not, we are the leaders of tomorrow. You know, it's something that we all have to accept, you know, because we're the only ones that's out here putting out this relevant information. So, you know, at the end of the day, like, real talk is on us. The buck stopped with us. We them new Moors. It's just simple as that. And, you know, it's a huge responsibility. And, I mean, you know, I for one, I mean, I'm doing neck exercises because, you know, when it's my turn to rock the crown, you know, just like when it's your turn to rock the crown, I don't want that piece to be too heavy. So, you know, I'm doing what I got to do. You feel me? So,